Let's get one thing straight from the start. This is not another motivational speech disguised as personal development. This is a disruption. What you're about to experience is a complete dismantling of the framework you've been using to understand yourself, your thoughts, your emotions, your habits, your entire reality. And in that dismantling, you'll discover something most people never realize. You are not who you think you are. You've been trained through education, culture, even language itself, to believe that your life is happening to you, that the conditions you live in shape your identity, that your thoughts and feelings define who you are, and that your potential is something to be reached for out there in the future. That's the story we're about to destroy, because once you realize that the story was written without your permission, you gain the power to rewrite it from the quantum level up. This isn't philosophy. It's not spiritual fluff. This is mental architecture based on real neuroscience, the metaphors of quantum theory and cognitive mastery, brought together in a structure designed to make you consciously reprogram the identity that's running your life. This series is called Quantum Self-Improvement and Mental Mastery for a reason. The word quantum isn't just being used for effect. It refers to the tiniest building blocks of existence. That means we're going to the root. Through 40 carefully constructed phases, you'll understand that your thoughts are not facts. Your mind is not your master. And your sense of self isn't permanent, it's programmable. You'll learn to shift from effort to alignment, from chasing results to commanding your internal field so powerfully that your external world adjusts automatically. But more than knowledge, this is a method, a way of seeing, a way of thinking, and most importantly, a way of being. You'll move from mental chaos to inner coherence. You'll uncover the field of awareness behind the mind. You'll learn to tap into states of genius, install neural habits that rewire your identity, collapse timelines into immediate results, and even alter your emotional frequency to match the future you choose to live. Each concept will build on the one before it. Each insight will unlock the next. You'll never see yourself the same way again, and that's the goal. Because the version of you who started this journey, that version is already becoming obsolete. So let's begin at the only logical place. Breaking the illusion you've mistaken for truth. We start by looking directly into the quantum mirror. Your life isn't unfolding, you're projecting it. Before we begin transforming you, we unravel the illusion you've mistaken for identity. Welcome to the quantum mirror. Let's talk about mirrors. Not the glass one in your bathroom, but the mirror you're looking into every second of your waking life without knowing it. This mirror reflects not your face, but your beliefs, your perceptions, your unspoken assumptions. It reflects your reality, but only because you're the one projecting it. Right now, you think the world you experience is something outside of you, that your relationships, job, emotions, finances, confidence, all of it is shaped by the conditions around you. It's not. It's being filtered and fed back to you through the lens of your own mind. A lens you didn't consciously choose. And until you realize that, you'll keep reacting to life instead of authoring it. Look closely. Your brain is not designed to show you truth. It's built to show you what you already believe to be true. Your senses feed raw data into your nervous system, but your interpretation of that data is shaped by memories, stories, fears, and unconscious filters installed when you were too young to defend yourself from them. So your reality is not neutral. It's a feedback loop. And you're at the center of it. Everything you see around you, your success or lack of it, your peace or anxiety, your growth or stagnation, is the echo of what's already happening internally. You're not witnessing the world. You're watching a projection of your own programming. This is the quantum mirror. And once you understand it, you stop reacting to what appears to be. You start editing the source. Now, here's the most uncomfortable truth you'll hear today. Most of the thoughts you think aren't even yours. They're inherited, installed, repeated, reinforced. You've absorbed them from family, teachers, culture, social media, and 1,000 invisible inputs. And then you treat them as your own. So when you say, "This is just how I am," you're really saying, "This is the pattern I've never questioned." And you wonder why change feels hard. It's because you've been rearranging the surface of a reflection, instead of touching the projector. But something powerful happens when you see the mirror for what it is. You stop being the character. You become the one writing the role. This doesn't require you to reject your life or escape your current reality. It means becoming aware of what part of it is an unconscious reflection so you can choose what gets mirrored back. The quantum mirror isn't magical. It's mechanical. It reflects whatever signal you're broadcasting. When you see fear, you're broadcasting uncertainty. When you see opportunity, you're broadcasting readiness. And when you begin to see both as projections, not facts, you realize that everything can change. Starting with the lens you're using to look through, you're not here to manage reality. You're here to master it. From this point forward, we stop trying to improve within the old system. We build a new one, and it starts with meeting the one behind the thoughts. Next, we will expose the most critical player in your transformation. The observer, the part of you that's been quietly watching every thought, every emotion, every decision, and waiting for you to notice it. Because once you do, everything changes. Let's keep going. Now that the illusion has cracked, meet the hidden presence behind your every experience, the observer. What happens when you stop believing every thought you think? The mirror has shattered. You've seen that reality isn't just observed. It's constructed through the lens of your mind. But before you can consciously shape what you experience, you must meet the only part of you that isn't shaped by it. The observer. Right now, there's a part of you that is aware of these words. It's not commenting. It's not reacting. It's not analyzing. It's simply aware. That is the foundation of everything you're about to build. It doesn't speak. It doesn't argue. It doesn't have an opinion. It sees. It knows. And most importantly, it doesn't identify with the noise that fills your mind. The average person thinks around 60,000 thoughts per day. But here's what's shocking. Over 90% of those thoughts are recycled. They're reruns, repetitions, loops. Yet people live their lives according to these loops, acting as if their thoughts are commands rather than echoes. Here's the shift. You are not the voice in your head. You are the one who hears it. The voice may sound like you. It may imitate your fears. It may even sound like your past. But it is not you. The moment you can observe a thought, you prove that you are separate from it. This might seem subtle, but it's the most important distinction you can ever make. Once this recognition sets in, power returns to you. You are no longer pulled in every direction by mental chatter. You are no longer trapped in the emotion of the moment. You become the steady eye of the storm, unshaken while thoughts swirl around you. This awareness, this observer, is pure consciousness. Can't be touched by what you think or feel. It simply watches. Now, here's the real reason this matters. Every automatic reaction you've ever had, whether it's fear, jealousy, distraction, self-doubt, only works on you because you thought it was your thought. But the observer doesn't react. It recognizes, pauses, and in that pause, there is freedom. Let's break it down. When someone insults you, and you feel rage boil up, that emotion isn't coming from the present. It's coming from a preloaded story about worth, ego, and identity. But when you activate the observer, you don't suppress the emotion. You watch it rise. You see it for what it is, a triggered thought pattern. And in that space between trigger and reaction, you find choice. Every transformation begins in that space. The observer also doesn't label. When you observe a thought without judgment, you strip it of its ability to control you. The mind says, I failed. The observer says, interesting. That thought just passed. The mind says, I'm not good enough. The observer replies, noted. That thought appeared. This isn't detachment in the cold sense. It's precision. Because once you see that your thoughts are like clouds drifting across the sky, you realize you've been living under weather you didn't choose. And now you get to decide the climate of your consciousness. Most people live their entire lives without recognizing this observer. They identify with every mood, every doubt, every story. They react, defend, explain, justify. But the moment you step back and witness the mind without judgment, you become bigger than the problem. You stop drowning in your thoughts. You stand on the shore and watch the waves. The mind will try to trick you. It will say, but I am you. I'm your intelligence, your logic, your voice. It will demand attention, but you'll know the truth. You are not the thoughts. You are the screen they appear on. Once you understand this, even the most toxic inner narratives lose their power. You don't have to fight them. You don't have to replace them. You just see them, and they dissolve. The observer isn't distant. It's not mystical. It's your natural state when you're fully present. You've already felt it. That moment of clarity when time feels suspended. That stillness when you sense everything but don't react. That gentle, quiet awareness behind all the noise. That's you. Not the idea of you. Not the egoic construct. But you, the timeless witness. You've seen the projection through the quantum mirror. Now you know who's watching it. Next, we will expand this awareness and ask a radical question. What if your consciousness doesn't just witness reality, but causes it to exist in the first place? We now open the door to a perspective that changes not only how you experience the world, but how the world responds to you. Let's continue. You've met the observer. But what if your awareness isn't just passive? What if it's collapsing your entire reality into existence? You've seen the observer. You've felt the distance between your awareness and the thoughts it watches. Now prepare to see something even more astonishing. That very awareness, the one that silently observes your inner world, might also be shaping your outer one. This idea isn't philosophical. It's a practical reality supported by some of the most provocative insights in modern physics. Let's look at this without mysticism, without dogma, and without abstract theories. Let's stick to what matters, your experience. In quantum mechanics, there's a concept that shakes the foundation of how we see the world. It's called the observer effect. In essence, the act of observing changes what is being observed. A particle behaves differently when it's being measured than when it's not. The particle doesn't decide to behave that way. It responds to observation, to awareness. Now ask yourself, if particles, the very building blocks of your body and environment, react to awareness at the smallest level, what is the implication for your life? Your awareness isn't just watching the show. It's shaping the stage. The same way a particle's behavior changes when someone is watching, your reality changes depending on what you bring conscious attention to. Your focus becomes a creative force. This is why two people can walk into the same room and have entirely different experiences. One sees opportunity, the other sees threat. Both are reacting to the same setting, but their reality isn't made of that setting. It's made of attention. Your consciousness collapses infinite possibilities into one tangible experience. Let's say you have 5 opportunities in front of you. Only one gets your full attention. The others blur into the background. Which one becomes real for you? The one you chose to observe. Not because it was better, but because it was selected. Your mind filters trillions of bits of data every second. What makes the cut? What you observe. What you give weight to. What you believe is real. So now, reality isn't a fixed screen. It's a reactive field. And your consciousness is the needle that pulls threads from that field into form. This is where responsibility deepens. Because if your attention is shaping your experience, then worry isn't harmless. Fear isn't passive. Doubt isn't neutral. They're not just emotions. They're instructions. You're handing blueprints to your subconscious and telling it, build this. But the reverse is also true. When you bring conscious attention to beauty, confidence, clarity, you collapse those potentials into your personal timeline. This isn't about positive thinking. It's about conscious selection. You're not pretending. You're picking. You're choosing the thread that matches the experience you want to have. And your mind starts reinforcing it. Your body reacts. Your language shifts. Your decisions align. Let's make it real. When you say, I am focused, and then act accordingly, your brain reinforces that neural pathway. When you say, I am scattered, and believe it, your brain obeys that too. Both are collapsed into reality by your awareness and belief. Now, which one do you want to energize? Because you always have a choice. Here's the challenge. Most people collapse reality unconsciously. They observe through filters of fear, self-doubt, limitation, regret. They collapse realities that reflect those patterns. And then they wonder why life feels stuck. But you're no longer stuck in that loop. You've met the observer. You understand its power. And now, you realize that your focused awareness is the most valuable force in your life. This isn't theory. It's training. You're now practicing the art of conscious creation. You've stopped reacting. You've started selecting. Next, we will take this awareness and refine it into an internal furnace of transformation. Because while awareness can collapse potential into form, only clarity can turn mental noise into usable power. We now bring you into the realm of mental alchemy, where chaos becomes gold. Let's keep moving. Now that you're shaping reality, how do you refine the raw mental noise into gold? Enter mental alchemy, where chaos becomes clarity and thoughts become tools. Your awareness has now taken the spotlight. You've stepped into the role of the observer. You've felt the shift from unconscious experience to conscious influence. But now comes a new challenge. What do you do with the chaos? Because no matter how aware you become, the thoughts still come. The emotions still move. The distractions still knock. Mental alchemy begins where awareness meets transformation. It's the practice of taking raw, unfiltered mental activity, worry, doubt, confusion, overstimulation, and transmuting it into direction, focus, and personal power. Just like ancient alchemists sought to turn base metals into gold, mental alchemists transform reactive thoughts into intentional energy. Let's start with what mental chaos really is. It's not the presence of thoughts. It's the lack of clarity around them. Thoughts become chaos when they aren't organized, processed, or prioritized. Like walking into a room where every object is scattered on the floor, you trip over everything not because the room is full, but because it has no structure. Mental alchemy provides that structure. It doesn't silence the mind. It harnesses it. Think of your mind as a forge. Every input, every memory, opinion, external trigger, and sensory impression gets thrown into that forge. But without conscious processing, all of it just burns. It fills the space with smoke. Mental alchemy is the discipline of filtering that fire, extracting the usable essence and discarding the noise. The moment you say, "This thought is not useful," you have begun the process. The moment you say, "This emotion is energy, I will channel it," you've stepped into mastery. Let's get practical. When you feel overwhelmed, your default habit might be to escape. Scroll, distract, shut down. The alchemical approach is different. It's not escape. It's engagement. You ask, what signal is this chaos pointing to? You dig under the emotional charge and look for the instruction. You don't fight it. You refine it. That's mental gold. Another key technique is intentional mental grouping. Most people suffer because every thought feels urgent. Every impulse feels like it needs action right now. Mental alchemists batch similar thoughts, place them into categories: emotion, logistics, imagination, analysis, and prioritize accordingly. This process is subtle but powerful, because when your thoughts are in their proper lane, your inner world stops feeling like a traffic jam. Then there's emotional transmutation. Anger, for example, is just focused energy looking for release. When processed unconsciously, it leads to damage, words said in haste, decisions made in tension. But when processed alchemically, it fuels clarity. You pause. You observe. You ask, what value is this emotion defending? Maybe it's your integrity, your time, your boundaries. You channel that into action with precision, not force. The chaos just became creation. This approach doesn't ignore pain either. It extracts its message. Pain that is ignored becomes suffering. Pain that is witnessed becomes signal. A breakup becomes an opening for self-definition. A failure becomes a map to a better method. A betrayal becomes a mirror of unspoken expectations. Mental alchemy doesn't sugarcoat. It sharpens. Even confusion has value. Mental noise often appears when new awareness is forming. Instead of labeling it overwhelm, the alchemist labels it data sorting. You don't need to solve everything in the moment. You only need to organize your relationship with it. That shift alone gives you back control. Now, let's talk about thought editing. Mental alchemy includes the real-time practice of catching cognitive distortions and refining them. A thought like, "I'll never figure this out," becomes, "I haven't figured it out yet, and here's one thing I can try." You aren't affirming blindly. You're refining intelligently. That's the difference between fantasy and mastery. Mental alchemy also creates space. The more you refine, the less noise you carry. And the less noise you carry, the more creative power you unlock. Because beneath the chaos is a natural clarity. It's already there, waiting for you to stop feeding the fire and start shaping the flame. And that shaping begins with one powerful internal decision. I will no longer let every thought dictate my state. You choose which thoughts get a seat at your table. The rest are thanked and dismissed. This is the art of mental sovereignty. You're no longer managed by your mind. You're managing it. You've moved from noise to signal, from reaction to refinement. You're no longer just aware. You're intentional. Next, we will take this sharpened awareness and move into the most powerful reset mechanism available to you. Because once the fire has been refined, it's time to return to stillness. Not as escape, but as origin. It's time to meet the point of complete neutrality and infinite potential within you. We now go to the 0 point. Let's continue. Having tasted clarity, are you ready to hit the internal reset button? Discover the 0 point, a quantum stillness within you that can erase years of mental baggage in minutes. You've mastered observation. You've begun refining thought into intentional energy. You've seen how chaos becomes clarity through conscious design. But even with mastery, energy builds, pressure rises, and the mind, like any system, needs a reset point, place beyond thought, beyond effort, beyond even refinement. This is where the 0 point comes in. It's not a method. It's not a goal. It's a return to the state beneath identity, beneath emotion, beneath thought. It is the still core within you that never moves, even when your entire life does. The 0 point is not emptiness. It's full potential in resting form. It's the blank screen before a film begins, the silent breath before a song plays, the gap between two thoughts. It's not passive. It's fertile. And when you enter it, even for a few seconds, something extraordinary happens. The mind resets its tension. Most people live in a constant state of microtension. They're always holding a little fear, a little pressure, a little identity armor. That tension accumulates, creates stress, fatigue, emotional static. The 0 point neutralizes that buildup, not by solving it, but by rendering it irrelevant. To reach it, you don't need to chant, posture, or empty your mind. You simply bring your awareness inward, not to your thoughts, not to your feelings, but to the space behind both. You notice the space between your breaths. You feel the point where thought pauses, however briefly, before another arises. That's your entrance. This stillness isn't mystical. It's neurological. When you access the 0 point, your brain moves into coherence. Your nervous system downshifts. Cortisol lowers. Your prefrontal cortex engages with clarity. In simple terms, you reset. This is why the 0 point matters so much. Because clarity without stillness can still burn out. But clarity anchored in stillness becomes sustainable power. Let's go deeper. When you access the 0 point regularly, you change your baseline identity. You're no longer someone trying to manage stress. You're someone rooted in calm. Reactivity no longer feels familiar. Stillness becomes your default. And from that stillness, action becomes elegant. You don't rush. You don't guess. You move with precision. This is where wisdom begins. Not in knowing more, but in pausing long enough for truth to arise without noise. When you practice resting in the 0 point, you notice ideas begin to form on their own, not from effort but from alignment. This is not spacing out. This is spaciousness, a quality of mind that makes space for genius to arrive. The 0 point also dissolves resistance. Every mental block, every emotional knot, every reactive trigger begins to loosen, not because you fought it, but because you held no resistance to it. The moment you stop resisting your own inner world, that world starts to move differently. It reorders itself around stillness. Eventually, this portal becomes portable. You no longer need to go to it. You carry it with you. You walk into meetings, challenges, relationships with that same internal silence. And people feel it, because presence is unmistakable. It doesn't need volume. It doesn't demand. It influences without trying. This is the hidden superpower of those who operate from the 0 point. They don't need to speak first. Their energy speaks before words ever enter the room. That level of calm becomes magnetic, not because it tries to attract, but because it radiates a field others unconsciously seek. Now you've accessed it. You've felt the stillness. You've sensed the reset. Next, we will take this balanced state and begin enhancing your brain's operating frequencies. Because from the 0 point, we're now ready to enter the realm of intentional brainwave control, where focus, flow, and genius are not states you stumble into, but frequencies you command. Let's continue. From stillness to flow, now let's wire your brain to function like a genius. Learn how to hack your brainwaves and live in your peak frequency zone. You've touched the 0 point. You've experienced the reset. Now, the question becomes, how do you operate from that space, not occasionally, but daily? The answer lies in your brain's frequencies. Your brain doesn't run on random electrical activity. It operates in rhythms, what we call brainwaves. Each state of consciousness you experience, alertness, relaxation, creativity, deep sleep, is tied to a specific frequency range. And the most powerful minds on the planet, they know how to shift between these frequencies like a skilled conductor moving through music. This is not luck. It's training. Let's break it down. There are 5 major brainwave categories: beta, alpha, theta, delta, and gamma. Each serves a distinct role in your cognitive and emotional function. Beta is your daily operating mode, focused, task-oriented, alert. But when elevated too long, it creates stress and mental fatigue. Alpha is the gateway state, relaxed yet alert. This is where intuition starts to whisper. Theta is the dream state, imaginative, deeply creative, often accessed in deep meditation or hypnagogic moments. Delta belongs to deep sleep and unconscious healing. Gamma is high-performance brilliance, moments of insight, synthesis, and peak problem-solving. These are not just technical terms. They're the control panel for your inner world. Right now, you're likely living mostly in high beta. Alert, overclocked, always planning. But high beta dominance comes at a cost. Increased cortisol, racing thoughts, poor decision-making, and reactive behavior. To create true mental mastery, you must learn to shift gears on purpose. This is brainwave hacking. Let's begin with alpha. Alpha is the access point for calm creativity. It's where analytical thought starts to fade and intuitive awareness rises. To enter alpha, your breath becomes your key. Slow, intentional breathing naturally downshifts your brain from beta to alpha within minutes. Another method: focus gaze with soft attention. You pick a fixed point, no judgment, just awareness. Your visual system calms. Your nervous system responds. You start to notice ideas coming not from effort, but from a space between effort and ease. That's alpha at work. Then comes theta. Theta is less verbal, more visual. It's where emotional patterns surface and creative genius begins. Some of your best breakthroughs will not arrive during hard work. They'll emerge while walking, showering, even sitting in silence. These moments happen because your brain slipped into theta. You can practice entering theta through nonlinear practices, daydreaming, nonlinear journaling, or listening to certain sound frequencies. When you relax the thinking mind, the deeper layers of intelligence rise. Now the crown jewel, gamma. This is the frequency of integration, where different parts of your brain communicate at high speed. Gamma is not something you force. It's something that emerges when you consistently align clarity, purpose, and presence. It feels like timelessness, total immersion, laser focus, no inner commentary, just flow. Athletes, creators, strategists all chase this state, but it's not random. It's a result of preparation meeting presence. You can enhance your access to gamma by strengthening alpha and theta as foundational states. Think of alpha as the bridge. theta as the creative spark, gamma as the flame. Now let's talk training. You can practice shifting your brainwaves using tools like breath control, binaural beats, guided awareness, and micromeditations throughout the day. For example, 2 minutes of rhythmic breathing before starting any creative task, 90 seconds of soft focus before a meeting, silence before decision-making. These may sound simple, but they recalibrate your entire operating system. They tune you back to optimal frequency. Another important method is time-based rhythm structuring. Your brain follows rhythms. If you consistently schedule deep work at the same time, your brain begins to preload that frequency. If you flood your mornings with alerts, noise, and reactive inputs, you train your brain to operate in shallow beta all day. Instead, create frequency zones in your schedule. Block time for focus, time for stillness, time for learning, time for flow. You're not managing time. You're managing energy frequencies. That's the secret. Here's the shift. You stop thinking of your brain as something you work with. You begin using it as a tunable instrument. The frequency you tune into determines the quality of your day. And those frequencies are not handed to you by chance. You choose them, consciously. This is the new mastery. You don't try to be focused. You shift into the frequency of focus. You don't try to be creative. You create the conditions for creative frequencies to activate. You don't try to feel confident. You tune into the brainwave pattern where confidence naturally lives. You align your state before action, and your actions become exponential. This is brainwave hacking. It's not just neuroscience, it's a strategic self-mastery protocol. Now you're no longer guessing how to feel. You're designing it from the inside out. Next, we will take this frequency intelligence and hardwire it into instant access points, custom-built mental shortcuts that activate your peak state on demand. Because once you know how to control your state, it's time to make it automatic. We now move to the technology of quantum triggers. Let's continue. Now that you're in the right frequency, it's time to program triggers, mental shortcuts that make you magnetic, focused, and fearless on command. Your brain now understands flow. You've tuned into alpha, tapped theta, and sensed the power of gamma. But even with full awareness of state, life still throws curveballs. Distraction creeps in. Emotion hijacks clarity. Pressure floods the nervous system. In those moments, you don't have time for a full reset. You need access now. This is where quantum triggers come in. They are custom-built activation switches for mental states. Shortcuts that your nervous system instantly recognizes and obeys. And once installed, they become part of your internal operating system. Let's clarify. A quantum trigger is not a motivational phrase or a hyped-up affirmation. It's a pattern interrupt combined with intentional meaning, wired through emotion, repetition, and choice. You are literally training your brain to treat certain actions, words, visuals, or postures as launchpads for a specific mental state. It's Pavlov's dog, but intentional, strategic, conscious. Here's how it works. You pair a deliberate gesture, sound, breath, or phrase with a peak internal state. Let's say you've just completed a deep focus session. You feel clarity, purpose, strength. Now you lock that in. You pair that experience with a unique cue. Say, tapping your wrist or repeating a sharp phrase like laser locked. Then you repeat the association daily. With emotional intensity, with clarity. Soon, the trigger becomes an anchor, and your body begins to respond without delay. Need confidence before a pitch? Activate your trigger. Your posture shifts. Your voice deepens. Your focus narrows. It doesn't feel like effort. It feels like alignment. You don't generate the state. You retrieve it, because you've trained for it. There are different types of quantum triggers. 1. Physical triggers: a fist clench, a breath sequence, a movement pattern. 2. Verbal triggers: a command phrase, an anchor word, a mantra with muscle. 3. Visual triggers: a color, an image, a symbolic gesture. 4. Spatial triggers: a room corner, a standing spot, even a scent. You assign meaning. You wire that meaning to a state, and you reinforce the loop. The key? Emotion. No trigger will hold without emotional charge. Emotions are the glue that bind experience to memory. That's why when you combine intention, repetition, and emotion, your brain starts automating. And what was once effort becomes instinct. This is not about removing human nuance. It's about installing super-efficiency into your state management. There's also a science-backed reason this works. Triggers engage the reticular activating system, RAS, your brain's gatekeeper of attention. By embedding a trigger with significance, your RAS begins scanning for supporting cues. You say the phrase, your RAS opens the gate, and your focus sharpens. The body follows. The voice changes. The posture adjusts. The signal is received and enacted without friction. Quantum triggers aren't just about performance. They're about trust. Trusting that you don't have to scramble for state, you already possess the code. Just waiting to be unlocked. As you move forward, start building your own set. One for clarity, one for calm, one for drive, one for presence. These become your mental toolkit. No longer hoping you'll be in the zone. You'll bring the zone with you. Next, we will go further than shortcut access. Now that your states are under command, it's time to stop improving the old identity and completely rewrite the source code. You're about to undergo the quantum identity shift. Let's keep moving. Triggers work, but what if you could stop improving yourself and become a new version of you entirely? Let's go beyond habits and rewrite your identity code. You've now experienced direct access to clarity, flow, and command. You've installed triggers that give you control, but something deeper is calling. You've improved behaviors. You've enhanced emotional states. You've shifted your mental frequency. But at some point, effort reaches a limit. Why? Because effort is still being filtered through an outdated identity. You're still building on the old blueprint. And that blueprint, your current self-image, is quietly dictating what you believe is possible, acceptable, or sustainable. To truly transform, you must go beyond the idea of upgrading. You must rewrite the source. This is the quantum identity shift. Let's break it down. Your identity isn't your name, job, or background. It's the silent collection of assumptions you hold about who you are and what you're here to do. These assumptions guide what you think you deserve, what you think you can sustain, what you unconsciously sabotage. No matter how much you want something, if your inner self-image sees it as incompatible, you will quietly resist it. And it won't feel like sabotage. It will feel like life, like things didn't line up, like you got tired, like the moment wasn't right. But in truth, it was identity correction. Your outer life always snaps back to the boundaries set by your self-perception. So here's the shift. You stop fixing the old model. You create a new one. You stop asking, how do I improve who I am? And start asking, who do I choose to be, starting now? This is not wishful thinking. It's not pretending. It's structural self-redefinition. And it begins with language. Your identity is shaped in large part by the phrases you repeat, especially the ones that start with I am. I am overwhelmed. I am not consistent. I am bad with people. Every time you use those statements, you're programming your neural architecture to reflect that narrative. But it's not just about removing negative language. It's about consciously authoring a new code. You build the new identity not by affirmations you don't believe. You build it by anchoring to microproof. Small, real behaviors that confirm a new truth. For example, you want to shift to I am focused. Instead of just repeating the phrase, you pair it with one aligned action. 10 minutes of focused work. One distraction resisted. A clear boundary kept. Now the brain has proof. The identity shift sticks not through volume of repetition but through congruence. You are now becoming who you say you are. But there's more. You must also retire the old character. You have to recognize which version of you has been running the show and thank them for their service. Yes, thank them. Because every version of you, even the reactive one, was trying to protect something. But you no longer need protection from expansion. You're no longer surviving. You're building. And that means upgrading isn't enough. You now choose to be rewritten. Let's go deeper. Your habits, your voice tone, your inner language, your posture, all of it is downstream from identity. So when the identity changes, effort reduces. You're no longer trying to stay motivated. The new identity expects motivation. It requires action. It doesn't negotiate with delay. That's why this shift is so powerful. It alters the foundation of behavior. Here's a mental technique. Picture your current self as a script. Then ask, what script do I want to perform next? What lines do I need to delete? What lines must I add? What habits confirm this new role? What thoughts no longer match the part? Identity becomes editable. It's not fixed. It's a flexible schema, updated by conscious intent. And when you live from this rewritten version, everything begins to synchronize. People start responding differently. Your environment starts shifting. New ideas arrive. Not because the world changed, but because your identity changed its signal. Your outer world is catching up to your new self-perception. This is the quantum identity shift. It doesn't require decades. It requires decision. And once you decide, your reality begins to restructure around that choice. Next, we will examine the illusion that keeps people stuck in progress purgatory. The concept of time. Because if you've rewritten who you are, there's no reason your future should stay in the future. Can collapse into now. Let's continue. If you are not who you were, then is time even real? Discover how to collapse timelines and make distant dreams arrive in your current moment. You've now reshaped identity at the foundational level. You've seen that the self is not a fixed entity, but an editable script. And if self can be rewritten, then your entire relationship with time must be questioned. Because time, as most experience it, is not linear, it's programmed. It's wrapped around identity, which means, if the self changes, time is no longer a barrier. It becomes pliable. It becomes a tool. The traditional belief is that progress moves forward in a straight line, step by step, month by month, year by year. This idea is embedded in every goal-setting framework, every school system, every career ladder. But it's flawed, because it assumes change is tied to time. It's not. Change is tied to intensity and clarity of decision. You can loop for years in confusion, or shift in 10 minutes of full alignment. The difference isn't time, the signal. Let's make this real. You have a goal, something that feels far away, 12 months, 3 years, someday. Now ask, is the result actually distant? Or is your belief in the version of you who has it what's distant? Here's the truth. The future you want already exists in one version of reality. It's not waiting for time. It's waiting for alignment. This is timeline collapse. It doesn't skip steps. It skips resistance. When you shift into the frequency of the version of you who has already achieved the result, you begin pulling that timeline toward the present. Your decisions accelerate. Your filter sharpens. Opportunities you once ignored become obvious. Because you're no longer hoping. You're matching. Here's the mistake most make. They treat the goal as distant and act accordingly. They hesitate. They second guess. They prepare endlessly. All of that slows the timeline. But when you begin acting, thinking, and deciding as the version of you who already lives in the goal, the timeline responds. Condenses. This is not fantasy. It's mechanics. Time is not linear in your nervous system. It is organized by emotional proximity. What feels real now gets prioritized. What feels someday gets postponed by default. So the question becomes, how real are your goals in your nervous system? Do they feel like the air you breathe, or like a blurry vision board fantasy? Your brain doesn't follow vision boards. It follows embodiment. To collapse time, start with state rehearsal. Daily visualization is useful, but not if you remain a spectator. You must step into the scene. Feel the weight of the clothes. Hear the tone of your voice. Smell the room you're standing in. This full sensory rehearsal primes the nervous system, and the body begins to act as if that version is already real. Now the brain adapts to match the signal, and reality follows. The second method, eliminate delay rituals. Anything you say or do that signals, I'll be ready later, must be questioned. I'll start next week. I just need to fix this first. I'm waiting for X. Each of these keeps your future locked in the future. Replace them with immediate micro-actions. Action compresses time faster than thought. Third, increase daily discomfort. Not suffering, expansion discomfort. Every time you do what the future version of you would do today, you break your timeline dependence. It's not about forcing the result. It's about collapsing the resistance to becoming. That's the key. Timeline collapse is available at any moment. It is not a strategy for speed. It is a strategy for alignment. Because when identity, thought, emotion, and action synchronize, time adjusts, the future doesn't arrive. You arrive at it. You've now unlocked the key to releasing time as an obstacle. Next, we will stretch your understanding even further. By exploring the infinite variations of you that already exist. Because now that you've collapsed one timeline, it's time to meet the others. We now explore parallel selves. Let's continue. Now that time is flexible, meet the parallel yous that already exist. Success, mastery, and peace are just one decision away, literally. You've released the grip of time. You've felt how decisions aligned with identity bring the future to you. But now you're ready for a deeper truth, one that most never consider. There's not just one possible version of you. There are countless. And every decision you make filters which one you experience. This is not theoretical. It's functional. It has real, daily impact on the choices you make, the energy you carry, and the results that show up around you. You don't need to become someone new. You need to align with the version of you that's already living the life you seek. This is the reality of parallel selves. Every time you stand at a point of choice, a potential you splits off in another direction. There is a version of you who said yes. There is a version of you who said no. There is a version of you who never hesitated. And another who stayed silent. These are not fantasy timelines. They are neurological possibilities, stored patterns in your own nervous system, waiting to be activated. Here's the key. You don't need to imagine that these versions exist in a mystical realm. They exist right now in your unrealized potential. They are the fragments of personality, drive, clarity, and courage that surface in rare moments, then fade again. Not because they're weak, but because they haven't been stabilized. Yet, let's make this real. There's a version of you who speaks up when they feel truth, moves toward discomfort instead of away, executes without needing perfect conditions, holds emotional clarity in pressure. You've seen glimpses of this person. You've had moments where that identity came forward. Now it's time to make that identity your baseline. But here's where it gets powerful. You can access these selves intentionally. You can call them forward through focus, rehearsal, and embodiment. Think of each self as a frequency. You don't become them through effort, you match their signal. And once the signal matches, your brain and body begin syncing to that version. Behavior changes. Thought patterns shift. Results adjust. Not through trying, but through selection. Let's go even deeper. This isn't just about better versions. It's about aligned ones. The version of you who has success but no peace. Not useful. The version of you who has wisdom but no voice. Not relevant. You're selecting for total coherence. Not just achievement. Alignment. So your job isn't to become someone more. Your job is to choose the version of you that reflects your full potential and act from that place until your body no longer questions it. Here's the shift. Stop chasing traits. Start choosing timelines. Because when you think in traits, confidence, discipline, clarity, you're thinking in fragments. When you think in timelines, you begin embodying the whole version where those traits already exist in unison. That's when change becomes fast and permanent. A powerful method, micro-embodiment routines. Each day, pick one version of you that already holds what you seek. Visualize how they would wake up, what they would do first, how they would respond to resistance. Now perform a 10-minute rehearsal where you mirror that behavior. Not think about it, not imagine it. Do it, even just once. The brain doesn't need volume. It needs intensity plus consistency. That's how neural patterns are replaced. Another method, the three-self dialogue. Speak as three voices. The current self, here's how I feel now. The future self, here's what I already know. The old self, here's what I release. This dialogue activates neural contrast. Your brain starts differentiating old from new and begins prioritizing the upgraded voice. You're not affirming blindly. You're speaking with structure, and the mind listens. Here's what's most important to remember. You're never far from your best self. You're just one decision away, because parallel versions don't live far from you. They live beneath your resistance. You've now seen that possibility isn't linear, it's selectable. Next, we will go even further into the realm of mental simulation. Because now that you've identified the version of you that's waiting, it's time to train your mind to think as if you already are them. We now explore the power of thought experiments from the future you. Let's continue. We've met your alternate selves. Now let them guide you. These thought experiments will rewire your brain to think as if you're already there. You've identified the version of yourself that already holds the life, clarity, and energy you seek. You've recognized that future potential doesn't live in some distant realm. It lives in your capacity to align with it now. But to stabilize that version, you must train your current mind to think as if you're already there. This is where thought experiments become one of your most powerful tools. They are not wishful exercises. They are neural rewiring protocols designed to simulate, install, and accelerate belief architecture. They work because your brain doesn't differentiate much between real experience and vividly imagined experience, especially when emotion is involved. So when you think from the place of your future self, not about them but as them, your brain begins to close the identity gap. Let's begin with the core method, the reality bridge thought experiment. Identify one desired outcome. Picture the version of you who lives that result fully. Ask, how would this version of me interpret today's problem? Think through their response, not yours. This isn't daydreaming. It's decision reprogramming. You're borrowing the cognitive filters of a higher self. And the more you do it, the more your baseline thought patterns shift. Second method, the constraint flip. The next time your mind says, I can't do this because, stop. Ask, how would the future version of me already be operating despite this constraint? You don't need to solve the problem. You need to reframe it. And that reframing rewires your creative circuitry. Third method, the emotional anchor shift. Instead of reacting to stress from your current identity, you ask, what emotional baseline does the future me live from? If they operate from confidence and ease, then practice holding that emotional tone for 60 seconds. That may sound small, but 60 seconds of emotional alignment is more potent than 60 minutes of anxious action. Why? Because emotion is frequency, and frequency defines access to thought. You cannot access future-level thinking from a present-level fear, but you can simulate the frequency and unlock the thoughts from there. Another powerful tool, reverse gratitude projection. Most people wait for outcomes to feel grateful. This method flips it. Each morning, name 3 things your future self is already grateful for, as if they've happened. You don't say, I hope I get there. You say, thank you for the clarity I now live in. Thank you for the systems I've mastered. Thank you for the peace that's my new default. This isn't delusion. It's directional. Your nervous system begins aligning your mood with your chosen timeline, and reality follows the signal. These experiments train your system to trust what hasn't happened yet, as if it already has. That's how you shift belief from abstract hope to internal knowing. And knowing is what collapses time, triggers action, and magnetizes opportunity. You're now thinking from the future, not toward it. Next, we will take this aligned thinking and apply it to your navigation system. Because when possibility opens up in every direction, the question becomes, how do you know which path is yours? We now fine-tune your internal navigation through recalibrating the quantum compass. Let's continue. You've accessed new selves, but how do you navigate the chaos around you? Let's recalibrate your inner compass so your path becomes magnetic and unshakable. Now that you've activated future thinking and started simulating identity-aligned outcomes, a new layer of challenge appears. When infinite possibilities open up in every direction, how do you know which one to choose? Which ideas deserve your energy? Which goals match your current frequency? Which paths lead to fulfillment, not just achievement? This is where your quantum compass must come online. Not the compass you inherited from family or culture. Not the one shaped by fear or comparison, but the one that points toward your highest alignment. This compass doesn't point north, points inward. You are surrounded by noise. Every day you receive thousands of signals, opinions, headlines, inputs, alerts, expectations. Each one pulls at your attention, demanding reaction. And if you don't have a calibrated inner compass, you will follow whichever signal screams the loudest. That's not alignment. That's survival. It leads to burnout, indecision, and false urgency. The quantum compass silences that chaos, not by blocking it, but by filtering it. It doesn't eliminate noise. It tunes your ear to signal. Here's how it works. The quantum compass operates through resonance. When something aligns with your highest direction, you feel it. It lands in your body before it makes sense in your mind. It feels like clarity before facts appear, like expansion before explanation. Your job is not to analyze it. Your job is to listen. The challenge is that most people have lost their signal. Their compass has been overridden by false inputs, people-pleasing, chronic urgency, ego-driven ambition, trauma-based avoidance. When these forces drive your direction, you may appear productive, but you'll feel misaligned. Your energy will drain faster than it regenerates, because you're moving away from truth. To recalibrate the compass, begin with this practice. Start measuring truth by energy, not logic. Ask, does this path energize me or drain me? Does this idea expand me or contract me? Stop asking only, does this make sense? Start asking, does this resonate with my most conscious self? Logic follows alignment, not the other way around. Next, audit your inputs. Your compass can't calibrate if it's being scrambled every day by chaotic energy. This doesn't mean isolation. It means selective exposure. What are you feeding your attention? Who is influencing your thought field? What patterns are you rehearsing unconsciously? Cut what numbs. Prioritize what sharpens. This is energetic hygiene. The compass also sharpens when you pause before action. Most people jump to execution out of fear of missing out or falling behind. But alignment doesn't rush. The most powerful moves often arise from stillness. Try this. Before acting on any decision, ask, if I fully trusted my path, would I still do this? That question removes the noise of insecurity and brings you back to clarity. Also, calibrate through emotional memory scanning. Think of a time when you felt deeply aligned. Not just successful, but whole. Recall the setting, emotion, people, energy. Now ask, what values were active in that moment? Those values are your coordinates. When your choices align with those values, your compass stabilizes. Another tool, micro-check-ins. Every few hours, pause and ask, is this direction draining me or fueling me? No judgment, no story, just signal. Over time, your nervous system learns to detect alignment faster. Eventually, it becomes automatic. You'll feel the yes before the mind speaks. Here's the most powerful realization. Your quantum compass never stopped working. You just stopped trusting it. The noise got louder than your intuition, but the signal is still there, quiet, precise, direct, waiting for you to hear it again. As you realign your inner compass, you'll notice your outer life start to shift. Decisions become easier. Opportunities feel obvious. Resistance decreases. Because when your direction matches your essence, momentum becomes effortless. That's the truth of alignment. Next, we will look at the hidden force that amplifies or distorts that compass, emotion. Because now that your direction is clear, you must understand what pulls you forward and what pulls reality toward you. We now enter the realm of emotional gravity. Let's continue. With direction set, it's time to address your fuel emotion. Discover how your dominant emotions bend reality toward you like gravity. Your inner compass is now guiding your path. You've sharpened your ability to detect alignment. But there's another force at play, one even more magnetic than intention. That force is emotion. Not just how you feel, but how you signal through how you feel. Because your emotions don't stay inside you. They ripple out. They influence how others respond to you, how you make decisions, and most importantly, what you attract. You are always attracting not just what you want, but what you are emotionally calibrated to receive. This is emotional gravity. Think of emotion as mass. The more mass it carries, the more gravitational pull it exerts on your reality. Joy pulls expansion. Anxiety pulls confusion. Certainty pulls clarity. Guilt pulls punishment. This isn't mystical. It's neurological. Your dominant emotional tone programs your reticular activating system, your internal filter of reality. And that filter controls what you notice, believe, and act on. You could be standing in front of opportunity and miss it if your emotional gravity is pulling your awareness toward limitation. You could be in a conversation where connection is possible, but you don't feel safe, so your emotional field repels it. You don't get what you want. You get what you're prepared to emotionally hold. Here's the key insight. Most people try to manifest outcomes without first recalibrating their emotional field. They affirm success while feeling scarcity. They chase peace while rehearsing inner conflict. It's not aligned. And the universe doesn't respond to language. It responds to coherence. Let's get practical. To shift your emotional gravity, start with emotional pattern detection. Track your dominant emotional state for 3 days. Don't analyze. Just observe. Am I mostly calm or agitated? Hopeful or resentful? Expansive or tight? This gives you a baseline, because if you don't know your current gravity, you can't change it. Next, name and elevate. Once you identify the dominant emotion, ask, what elevated emotion would create the reality I want? For example, replace pressure with purpose. Replace tension with grounded presence. Replace fear with confident neutrality. Now rehearse that elevated state, even before conditions change. Your reality won't shift when the emotion is justified. It shifts when the emotion is chosen. Here's the practice. Start your day with a deliberate emotional tone setting. Choose an elevated emotional frequency. Anchor it through breath, movement, or sound. Revisit it every few hours. This trains your nervous system to hold that signal consistently, and that consistency creates gravity. Your emotional field also influences how people perceive you. Two people can say the same words, one lands, the other fades. Why? Because the emotional charge behind the words carries the weight. This is why aligned leaders don't speak more, they speak from deeper presence. And that presence comes from emotional coherence. Let's go deeper. When you combine emotional gravity with intention, your actions gain momentum. You don't have to push as hard. People respond. Opportunities open. Timelines shorten. Not because you forced it, but because your frequency matched the result. That's the secret. Here's the final layer. When your emotional gravity is strong enough, you don't chase. You magnetize. Not because you're lucky, but because your field became undeniable. This is the core of attraction. Not visualization. Not obsession. Emotional coherence. You've now understood what drives your pull in reality. Next, we will take this understanding and rewire your emotional frequency entirely. Because attraction is only sustainable when it's supported by a stable, high-quality internal broadcast. We now move into feelings or frequencies. Let's continue. Now that you understand emotional gravity, let's rewire your entire emotional frequency. Master this and you'll never chase happiness again. It will find you. You've seen that your emotions are not just internal experiences, they are signals, forces, magnetic pulls. But now we go even deeper, because your feelings aren't random. They're rhythmic. They operate like sound waves, like tones, like music. They carry frequency. And just like you can tune an instrument to match a desired pitch, you can tune your emotional state to match the future you want to live. That tuning process is the art of emotional frequency rewiring. It's not about feeling better. It's about broadcasting clearer. Because your dominant emotional tone is broadcasting constantly, whether you know it or not. Let's get clear. Everything vibrates. This isn't spiritual lingo. The scientific law. At the atomic level, your cells are vibrating constantly. Energy pulses through your nervous system, your brain, your muscles, your breath. And emotion is the most concentrated form of vibrational energy in your system. Fear, joy, shame, love, excitement. These are not just labels. They are measurable energetic states. And they influence every choice you make, every person you attract, every solution or problem that arises in your space. But here's what most people miss. You're not stuck with the emotional frequency you've been conditioned into. You can recalibrate it consciously. And when you do, your life starts matching that calibration. Let's begin with emotional signature recognition. Every person walks around with a baseline emotional signature, a kind of emotional home frequency. It's not what they feel occasionally. It's what they default to under pressure. Some default to tension. Some default to guilt. Some default to calm. You've got yours. And that signature has been shaping your relationships, decisions, and energy for years, without needing your permission. So the first step is to see it. Ask, what emotional tone do I carry most often? What tone do I fall into when I'm not actively choosing? This gives you the current calibration. Now comes the shift. You choose a new signature. You don't wait to feel like it. You select it. Start small. Pick one elevated emotion that feels like a stretch but not a fantasy. Examples: calm clarity, grounded confidence, gentle joy. Don't aim for a dopamine high. Aim for resonance. You're not trying to escape your current emotion. You're replacing the channel. Next, you practice tuning. There are 5 core tuning tools. 1. Breath rhythm slow, rhythmic breathing shifts your nervous system. It brings coherence to the emotional field. 2. Micromovement, posture, walk speed, and muscle tension all influence emotional frequency. Adjust them deliberately. 3. Self-talk filter, eliminate low-frequency phrases. Speak only what reinforces your selected state. 4. Environment audit your space either matches or resists your new frequency. Adjust visuals, sounds, lighting, and input. 5. Frequency rehearsal, close your eyes, embody the new feeling, and hold it for 90 seconds. This reprograms the nervous system. Then comes consistency. Emotional rewiring doesn't require perfection. It requires repetition under pressure. The moment something triggers your old pattern, that's your training ground. You pause. You remember the chosen signature. You breathe it in. You return to the new channel. Do this enough times, and the old emotion becomes unfamiliar. The nervous system will reject it because it no longer matches your chosen frequency. Another powerful tool: frequency anchors. Pick a symbol, word, gesture, or sound that reminds you of your selected emotional state. Use it throughout the day to bring yourself back to the chosen tone. These anchors become shortcuts, mental switches you can flip at will. They don't eliminate emotion. They guide it. Now here's the key realization. When you consistently maintain a higher emotional frequency, life begins responding to you differently. You don't need to push as hard. You don't need to persuade. You don't need to overplan. Because your frequency becomes the filter. You begin noticing opportunities you were blind to. People feel safer around you. Solutions surface without force. That's not magic. That's vibrational alignment. You're not chasing happiness anymore. You've become the source of the signal. And that signal begins building a new field around you. Now you've rewired your emotional tone. But with this new power comes a new challenge. How do you hold this elevated state without being attached to outcome? How do you stay calm, focused, powerful, without needing everything to go your way? That's where the true mastery begins. We now move into the art of detachment without apathy. Let's explore the observer's superpower. Let's continue. Emotions are powerful, but not when they control you. Learn the subtle art of detachment without disconnecting, where you become invincible but still deeply alive. You've tuned your emotional field. You've selected your signature frequency. You've begun walking through life with a more conscious tone. But here's the next threshold. How do you hold that power without being trapped by it? How do you stay emotionally rich, but mentally sovereign? That's where the observer steps back in. And this time, not just to witness, but to lead. Detachment is one of the most misunderstood concepts in self-mastery. People often confuse it with apathy, numbness, or avoidance. But real detachment is none of those. Detachment isn't about not feeling. It's about not letting those feelings own you. You're still emotionally engaged. You still care. You still feel deeply, but nothing owns your center. Here's what that looks like in practice. Project fails. The old pattern kicks in: panic, shame, self-judgment. But the observer steps in. You notice the emotion rise, but you don't identify with it. You say, that's disappointment moving through me, not me. You let the feeling pass like a wave without grabbing it. This isn't suppression. It's mastery. Detachment means you act with full energy without tying your identity to the result. You give everything, but if the outcome shifts, you don't collapse. You stay centered, not because you don't care, but because you've trained yourself to hold both presence and neutrality at once. That is power. Here's a daily practice to install it. The emotional distance technique. When triggered, pause for 3 seconds. Say silently, "This is a reaction. It is not me." Observe it without trying to fix it. Let it move without adding narrative. Do this often, and your nervous system begins responding instead of reacting. You stay emotionally aware, but no longer emotionally hijacked. Another tool, purpose-led action. Before any major task, ask, would I still do this if no one clapped, praised, or noticed? This question removes ego. It centers you in purpose. And when you're anchored in purpose, detachment becomes natural. You stop chasing validation. You move from intention. Now let's go deeper. True detachment also means releasing your timeline. You know what you're building. You feel it clearly, but you don't demand it appear on your schedule. You show up fully and release the need for immediate proof. This isn't passivity. This is unshakable trust. Here's the paradox. The less you need the outcome to prove your worth, the faster the outcome arrives. Because your frequency stops signaling desperation. It starts broadcasting certainty. And certainty doesn't cling, creates. Now let's clarify something. Detachment doesn't mean don't care. It means you care so deeply, you don't let temporary setbacks sway your essence. You know who you are. You know what you're building. So you hold both the vision and the neutrality to let it unfold without emotional collapse. This is the observer's superpower. Not just watching thoughts, not just choosing emotions, but being so rooted in identity that outcomes can't shake you, emotions can't own you, and external chaos can't define you. You move forward with presence, clarity, and peace, not because it's easy, but because you've trained for it. You've now mastered the art of emotional engagement without emotional dependence. Next, we will reveal the feedback loop that keeps people stuck in repetitive emotional cycles, no matter how much awareness they gain. You're about to break free from the trap that most people never even notice. We now move into the thought-emotion loop. Let's continue. Ever feel stuck in a mood spiral? You've just uncovered the quantum feedback loop. Time to snap out of it for good. You've trained your mind to observe without attachment. You've tuned your emotions to higher frequencies. But now we must expose the invisible loop that pulls people back into old patterns, no matter how much they evolve. It's called the thought-emotion loop. And once you see it, you'll never fall for it again. This loop is one of the most common and most destructive feedback systems in human psychology. It keeps millions stuck in emotional repetition, reacting to their own mind like a hamster running endlessly in circles. Here's how it works. You have a thought, maybe subtle, maybe strong. That thought produces a feeling. The feeling then validates the thought. And because the feeling is real, the thought feels true. That truth generates another thought, which deepens the emotion, which reinforces the next thought. On and on, around the wheel, until that thought-feeling loop becomes your identity. Let's make it real. Thought, I'm behind in life. Emotion, anxiety. Now anxiety confirms, yes, I must really be failing. That reinforces urgency, comparison, and overwhelm. And the next thought is even heavier. It's not that the original thought was accurate. It's that it created a feeling, and the feeling made it believable. That's the trap. The thought-emotion loop thrives in low awareness. It functions in the background. It disguises itself as intuition or truth. But in reality, it's just a feedback prison. And if you don't interrupt it, it becomes your mental operating system. You no longer think about your life. You think from the loop. Every decision, reaction, and relationship becomes an extension of that pattern. The first step to freedom is naming the loop. Ask, what thought consistently creates emotional tension in me? What emotion keeps bringing that thought back to life? You're looking for the cycle, not just isolated moments. That pattern is your loop. Now you can interrupt it. Let's look at the interruption sequence. Step 1. Identify without identification. The thought isn't you. The emotion isn't permanent. You say, there is a thought about failure. There is a feeling of pressure. This language separates you from the pattern. You become the observer again, not the reactor. Step 2. Label the loop. Give it a name. Something short and non-judgmental. Examples: the old achiever trap, the spiral of scarcity, the pressure engine. This label reduces the loop's unconscious control. Your brain starts recognizing it as a pattern, not a truth. Step 3. Change the channel physically. Loops thrive on mental repetition. They dissolve through physical redirection. Move your body. Shake your arms. Take 10 breaths. Say a phrase out loud. You're signaling the nervous system, we are no longer playing this tape. Step 4. Replace with a new signal. Once the loop is interrupted, install a new thought-emotion sequence. Don't affirm blindly. Affirm precisely. Example: thought, I'm allowed to build calmly. Emotion, relief. Now sit with that emotion for 60 seconds. Let the new loop begin. One that feeds clarity instead of confusion. With practice, this process becomes second nature. You'll catch the loop before it builds momentum. You'll feel the familiar pull and stop feeding it. And the loop will weaken until one day it doesn't run anymore because your brain is no longer reinforcing it. Here's a deeper truth. The loop was never about truth. It was about familiarity. You were returning to a state that felt known, even if it didn't serve you. But now you're choosing a new standard. You're no longer loyal to old emotional patterns. You're loyal to alignment. This is how freedom begins, not with massive effort, but with subtle interruption. Again and again until the new signal becomes your new self. You've now broken the cycle. But the mind doesn't just think in patterns. It speaks in code. And the next evolution is learning to speak in vibrations that instruct reality to match your signal. We now enter the domain of reprogramming reality with language and vibration. Let's continue. Thoughts shape emotion, but language gives it structure. Learn to speak in vibrations that command your subconscious and reshape your world. You've disrupted the loops that kept your mind cycling through outdated emotions. You've broken the autopilot. Now it's time to program with precision. Because while thoughts generate signals and emotions amplify them, language gives them structure. Language is not just description, it's creation. And when you learn to use it as vibration, not just vocabulary, you begin to shape not only your self-perception, but your external reality. Let's get clear. Words are not just sounds. They are commands. Every sentence you speak internally or aloud becomes an instruction, one that your subconscious receives without resistance. Your subconscious doesn't question. It obeys. That means the phrases you repeat shape your body, your beliefs, your relationships, and your emotional field. Examples: I'm so overwhelmed. I can never stay consistent. This always happens to me. These may feel harmless, but they are frequency codes, and your subconscious doesn't interpret them metaphorically. It receives them literally. Now reverse it. I can handle this calmly. I'm wired for clarity. Everything is feedback, not failure. These codes rewire your nervous system. They train your energy to follow structure. This is where vibrational linguistics begins. You're not just replacing negative phrases with positive ones. You're building a library of high-frequency language, spoken with precision, rhythm, and clarity. Step 1. Audit your autolanguage. For 24 hours, notice any habitual phrase that limits, shrinks, or victimizes you. Write them down. Don't justify, just capture. Step 2. Write the upgrade. For each phrase, create a replacement that carries strength, clarity, and expansion. Not fantasy, just a more empowered frame. Example: old, I'm so busy. New, my energy is focused where it matters. Step 3. Speak it with vibration. The power of language is not just in words, but in tone. Say the upgraded phrase slowly, deliberately. Feel the emotion it activates. This combination of word plus tone plus feeling equals vibrational command. You're not just saying something. You're broadcasting a signal that your nervous system and subconscious respond to. Step 4. Install through repetition and environment. Repeat your core phrases daily, especially during transition points, first thing in the morning, before meetings, when shifting focus, when emotion spikes. Also, anchor your space with these phrases. On mirrors, notebooks, phone screens. You're not decorating. You're designing your cognitive atmosphere. Advanced practice, vibrational silence. Sometimes the most powerful language is nonverbal intention held in presence. Sit in stillness. Hold your chosen phrase silently in your body. Let it radiate without speaking. This silent broadcast teaches you that vibration precedes articulation, and that your energy is always speaking, even when your mouth is closed. Here's the deeper truth. Reality bends more quickly to language that matches your true frequency. Empty affirmations don't work because they lack coherence. But when your words match your intention, emotion, and posture, you become undeniable. That's when language becomes creative force, not noise, power. You've now moved beyond reactive speech. You're no longer speaking from your circumstances. You're speaking to them. This is how you reprogram reality, not through noise, but through signal. Next, we will give form to that signal. We will shape your timeline through written vibration, because now you are ready to speak to the future on paper. We now move into quantum journaling. Let's continue. Now that you speak the new language, let's write your new timeline. This isn't journaling, this is time travel on paper. You've taken control of your language. You're no longer describing your life from the outside in. You're broadcasting signals with intent, clarity, and coherence. But there's another tool that turns those signals into stable, measurable reality. It's not affirmations. It's not goal setting. It's not journaling as you know it. This is quantum journaling, the art of conscious timeline construction through written thought alignment. It's not about recording what's happened. It's about writing from the version of you who already lives the life you're creating. This isn't documentation. It's transmission. Let's get clear. Most journaling is either reactive, processing emotion after the fact, or aspirational, listing things you hope will happen. Quantum journaling skips both. It bypasses memory and hope, and writes directly from embodiment. That means you write as the future version of yourself in the present tense. And by doing so, you collapse the distance between your current self and that version. Let's break down the method. There are 3 core forms of quantum journaling. 1. Identity writing. 2. Reality anchoring. 3. Timeline encoding. Each one serves a specific function in shaping your cognitive and emotional alignment. Let's go through them. Identity writing. This is where you speak as if you already are the version of you who holds the results, clarity, and alignment you desire. You write in full immersion, not about them, but from them. Example: I woke up today grounded and focused. I could feel my nervous system at peace before my eyes even opened. Everything I do flows from inner clarity. You're not visualizing. You're rehearsing identity structure. The brain responds as if it's already true. And with repetition, it starts reinforcing that version as your new baseline. Reality anchoring. Now you add texture. Describe your external world through the lens of this identity. Where are you? What kind of people do you engage with? What decisions are you making from this place? You're training your perception to expect alignment, not chaos. This is not wishful thinking. It's environmental conditioning. You're telling your nervous system, this is what stability feels like, and it listens. Timeline encoding. This is where you write key memory points from the future, describing events that haven't happened yet as if they already did. Example: 2 months ago, I stepped into a new level of creative clarity. It felt immediate, like I had finally caught up to myself. You write past tense future events. This signals your subconscious that they are inevitable, not theoretical. Now your behavior aligns with that inevitability. Each form serves a unique purpose. When combined, they reshape your emotional calibration, cognitive focus, and behavioral defaults. You're no longer building from doubt. You're aligning with inevitability. Let's make it practical. Set aside 5 minutes per day. Use one or more of the 3 forms. Write in present or past tense from your future identity. Do not edit. Do not judge. Flow from clarity. If resistance arises, good. That means you're stretching the old structure. Let it stretch. Advanced practice. Write backwards. Take a goal. Write the final outcome as already achieved. Then write each prior event in reverse order until you reach today. You've now laid out a subconscious map that your brain begins scanning for confirmation. That map is no longer a fantasy. It becomes a target. Now here's the deeper truth. Quantum journaling is not about being right. It's about being deliberate. You are giving your nervous system a new narrative to believe in, and belief precedes behavior. You've now started communicating with your future, but the signal must be clean. And that means we must now remove the noise, the beliefs you've inherited, absorbed, or carried for too long without inspection. Next, we will eliminate the thought architecture you didn't choose. It's time for a thought detox. Let's continue. You're writing a new reality, but old beliefs still linger. It's time for a full mental uninstall. Let's delete what never belonged to you. You've begun shaping your future from the inside out. You're writing, speaking, and signaling in alignment. But there's one critical obstacle that can quietly undermine all of it. Outdated beliefs. Not the loud ones. Not the obvious ones. The silent ones. The beliefs that run in the background of your mind like unexamined programs, shaping every choice, reaction, and expectation. And here's the uncomfortable truth. Most of them aren't yours. They were installed. From early childhood, your brain was wide open. Every voice you heard, every pattern you saw, every story you were told, all of it coded into your subconscious without filters. Beliefs about money, beliefs about love, beliefs about intelligence, beliefs about safety, identity, and success. And now, decades later, many of those beliefs are still operating your system, unquestioned, until now. This is the thought detox, a method for identifying, interrupting, and removing beliefs you didn't choose so you can replace them with clarity and conscious programming. Let's begin. Step 1. Surface the invisible. Write down your core themes in life: health, wealth, love, creativity, purpose. Now for each one, ask, what is my automatic belief about this topic? What do I assume without thinking? Don't filter. Write raw. These are your embedded codes. Step 2. Source the origin. Once you identify a belief, trace it. Who said this to me? Where did I see this repeated? Was this from experience or just repetition? You'll start to see that many beliefs are echoes of voices that are no longer relevant to who you are. Yet they've been running your show. Step 3. Evaluate by alignment. Ask, does this belief support the version of me I am becoming? If not, it's outdated. Even if it's familiar, even if it once protected you, even if others still believe it, familiarity does not equal truth. Step 4. Uninstall. Uninstalling a belief isn't about arguing with it. It's about neutralizing its emotional power. Speak the belief out loud, then say, this belief no longer belongs to me. Then offer the replacement. I now choose to believe. Do this with calm conviction, not hype, not performance. You're rewriting code, not trying to win a debate. Step 5. Replace with energetic proof. Take one small action that confirms your new belief. If the new belief is, I am safe to be seen, then share one honest idea publicly. If the new belief is, I create consistent results, then schedule one block of focused action. Beliefs don't just respond to thought. They respond to behavior. That action confirms the new identity. This process must become a habit. Beliefs are sticky. They hide under logic. They defend themselves with patterns. But once you see them, they lose power. You're not fighting them. You're replacing them with clarity. Now let's go deeper. Sometimes a belief isn't verbal. It's energetic. You don't think, I'm not worthy, but you shrink your posture. Avoid eye contact. Delay decisions. That's a belief expressing itself physically. Your job is to reverse the pattern. Expand instead of contract. Speak instead of avoid. Act instead of defer. Your body becomes the new belief in motion. This is thought detox at the quantum level. You are no longer allowing invisible programs to dictate your trajectory. You're editing at the root. And once the mental field is clear, you're ready for the final integration. We now face the inner realm that holds your deepest energy and often your greatest resistance. It's time to meet and integrate the part of you that's been waiting to be seen. Next, we move into shadow integration. Let's continue. You've removed what doesn't serve you. Now face what hides within you. Your shadow holds the final pieces of your power. You've cleared old beliefs. You've chosen new ones. You've realigned your thoughts and frequencies to match the future version of you. But now we reach a threshold that most avoid. Not because it's dark, but because it's misunderstood. You're about to meet your shadow. Not the part of you that's broken. Not the part that needs fixing. The part that's been hidden. And within it, energy, insight, and power you've been denying yourself. The shadow is not evil. It's not dangerous. It's simply the side of you that didn't get permission to exist. Repressed instincts, unspoken truths, suppressed anger, unprocessed sadness, dismissed desires, not because they were wrong, but because they were inconvenient. You didn't know how to hold them, so you buried them. But what you bury doesn't disappear. It festers. It leaks into relationships. It disguises itself as self-sabotage. It hides behind perfectionism, judgment, or avoidance. You say, I don't know why I keep doing that. The answer? Shadow. Integration doesn't mean indulging the shadow. It means listening to it, understanding its role, and reintegrating its energy with conscious command. Because within your shadow is drive. Within your shadow is clarity. Within your shadow is your capacity to feel, respond, and move without shame. You cannot become whole while rejecting half of yourself. Let's begin the process. Step 1. Shadow spotting. Ask, where do I overreact? What traits do I criticize in others? What emotions do I always suppress? These are your portals. Whatever triggers a strong reaction, externally or internally, is pointing to something unresolved. Not to punish you, to reveal you. Step 2. Translate the shadow. Behind every shadow behavior is an unmet need. Anger often hides boundaries. Jealousy hides unlived desire. Insecurity hides unclaimed power. You're not excusing the shadow. You're extracting its message. Ask, what is this emotion trying to protect or reveal? That answer holds the integration key. Step 3. Create safe dialogue. Now you bring it forward. Not in judgment, in conversation. Sit in silence. Ask, what do you need me to see? Let the shadow speak, not to control but to inform. Write what arises. Stay curious. This is not therapy. This is intelligent integration. Step 4. Reclaim the resource. Once the message is clear, ask, how can I use this energy in service of who I choose to be? You're not trying to remove anger, fear, or grief. You're rerouting the power behind them. Anger becomes boundary. Fear becomes discernment. Sadness becomes depth. You're alchemizing emotional weight into conscious fuel. Step 5. Practice public wholeness. You're done hiding. Start bringing your integrated self into the world. Not the sanitized version. You speak up without shame. You move with directness. You stop apologizing for your intensity, your depth, your clarity. That's what shadow integration unlocks. Permission to be whole. Now here's the deeper truth. Your shadow doesn't resist you. It's been waiting for you, not to rescue it, to acknowledge it, to release the charge you've stored for years. And when you do, your internal conflict fades, because the war within you was never about good versus bad. It was seen versus unseen. You've now retrieved a vital part of your power, but many fragments of that shadow live in the past, anchored in events, moments, timelines where energy was lost. The next evolution is healing those timelines. Not slowly, not symbolically, but instantly by shifting the relationship to your past. We now move into quantum forgiveness. Let's continue. After meeting your shadow, you're ready for quantum healing. Here's how to forgive and instantly reclaim lost energy from your past. You've faced your shadow. You've listened to what was hidden. You've reclaimed energy from suppressed parts of self. Now the next layer reveals itself, the past, not as memory, but as trapped energy, because everything you haven't forgiven still holds a charge. And wherever there's a charge, there's a leak. Forgiveness isn't about excusing harm. It's not about erasing history. It's about reclaiming the emotional sovereignty you've been giving away. You don't forgive to set them free. You forgive to set yourself free. Quantum forgiveness is not emotional bypassing. It's timeline healing. You remove the charge. You extract the lesson. And you dissolve the link between your present energy and a moment that no longer exists. Let's begin the process. Step 1. Identify the open loop. Ask, what memory still holds a sting? Where do I replay events I should be over by now? What conversation do I keep having in my head? That's your open tab. Energy still running. Focus still leaking. You're not weak. You're just still entangled. Step 2. Remove the timeline distortion. You are not the version of you who was hurt. You are the version of you who has survived. Yet, each time you relive the moment without new interpretation, you reinforce an old identity. Quantum forgiveness begins by separating event from essence. Yes, that happened. But no, it does not define your frequency anymore. Step 3. Revisit with conscious witness. Bring the memory forward, not to wallow, but to reassign it. This time, you watch from neutrality. You see the younger version of you. You feel what they felt. And you hold space, not to change what happened, but to give that version of you what they didn't get: presence, understanding, and safety. Step 4. Extract the power. Ask, what did this teach me that I now use to strengthen others? What value did this pain encode into me? You're turning suffering into structure, not by rewriting truth, but by reassigning meaning. Because meaning is the only part of the past that lives on. You get to choose it. Step 5. Reclaim the energy. Speak it. I now retrieve the energy I left in that moment. I release the identity I attached to that version of me. I move forward, complete. Then breathe. Let the charge dissolve. That's quantum forgiveness. It's not waiting years to heal. It's collapsing the emotional timeline by changing your relationship to it. Now here's a deeper layer. Sometimes the hardest person to forgive is you, for missing signs, for staying too long, for saying too little. But holding yourself hostage doesn't prove growth. Proves resistance. Forgiveness is not just healing, it's maturity. You accept the cost. You collect the wisdom. You stop rehearsing regret. You're now walking free, lighter, stronger, clearer. You've retrieved what was scattered. You've dissolved what distorted. And now the past no longer calls the shots. You're finally present, which means you're now ready to hold multiple versions of possibility. Consciously, clearly, and without attachment. Next, we will explore how to live in awareness of multiple realities. Without becoming fractured, we now move into mindful multiverse. Let's continue. You've healed the past. Now, learn to be deeply present, while still aware of every future version of yourself. It's possible. It's powerful. You've closed the loops of the past. You've pulled your energy back into the present moment. You've begun operating from clarity, not history. But now something more expansive becomes available to you. The present isn't just a place to pause. It's the intersection point of infinite potential. Every choice you make in the present splits into new possibilities. And with awareness, you can begin to sense them without being pulled by them. This is the art of operating in the mindful multiverse. It's not about imagining every possible outcome. It's about being fully here while staying aware of what else could be activated from this exact moment. Let's clarify. Most people live in a cycle of unconscious reaction. They're not aware of options. They feel confined to the next step, the next task, the next expectation. They move through life like a train on fixed tracks. But presence doesn't mean narrowing down. Presence, when practiced with intentionality, becomes expansion without overwhelm. It's being grounded in the now, while holding awareness of every fork in the road your decision could open. That's not stress. That's sovereignty. This is possible because of how the brain works. Your mind doesn't operate in a linear timeline. It can simulate outcomes. It can project emotional responses to imagined events. It can build belief around potential, not just experience. You can live in the present while training your brain to register multiple futures and feel at peace with them all. Here's how it works. You train yourself to stay rooted in now, but remain aware of branches, different paths you can choose based on alignment, frequency, and readiness. You observe them, you sense their emotional tone, but you don't chase them. This is how you stay powerful in choice, not scattered in curiosity. Let's make it real. You're presented with an opportunity. In normal thinking, you either overthink it or reject it based on fear. In mindful multiverse mode, you pause and ask, if I say yes, what emotional timeline activates? If I say no, what pattern continues? You observe both. You feel both. And then you choose without attachment to what could have been. This trains your brain to think multidimensionally. You begin to see decisions not as right versus wrong, but as fields of experience. Each path becomes a conscious simulation. Each outcome becomes a choice, not a consequence. Here's a practice. 3-path presence scan. Before any decision, ask, what does my mind want to do? What does my fear want to do? What does my aligned self choose to do? Now sit in the emotional frequency of each. This isn't mental. It's energetic. Your body will tell you. One path feels heavy. One feels protective. One feels clean, clear, and light, even if uncertain. That's the aligned timeline. Choose from there. Over time, this expands your sense of personal power. You stop saying, I didn't know. You start saying, I chose that version of me. Even when things get hard, you won't regret it. Because it wasn't reaction, it was resonance. That's real peace. Here's where it gets more powerful. You can begin using this awareness not only for yourself, but in relationships, leadership, and creative work. You'll start sensing which version of someone is showing up, and which version of you they're activating. Now you don't just respond better. You generate better dynamics. You shift energy without saying a word. Mindful multiverse isn't fantasy. It's the next layer of mental clarity. It expands your field without scattering your mind. Connects intention with perception. It lets you be fully here, while aware of what's possible beyond this moment. That's real presence. And that presence sets up your next breakthrough. Once you're living in alignment with your chosen path, you must train your brain to sustain that path. Because awareness isn't enough. You must now wire your brain to respond, adapt, and grow in the direction of who you've chosen to become. It's time to activate the science of neuroplasticity. Let's continue. Presence empowers change, but how does the brain physically adapt? Discover how to mold your mind like mental clay. You've learned to think beyond the past. You've gained clarity in the now. You've become aware of alternate futures without being pulled by them. But awareness without adaptation will always hit a wall. To make your growth real, it has to go beyond mindset. It must change your brain structure. And the good news is your brain is built for change. This is the power of neuroplasticity. Neuroplasticity is the ability of your brain to physically rewire itself based on how you think, act, and feel. This isn't theory. It's the biology of transformation. When you repeat a thought, emotion, or behavior, you reinforce specific neural pathways. Do it enough and it becomes your default. That's how habits form. That's how identities stabilize. That's how reality begins to reflect who you are on a neurological level. Let's break it down. Every time you have a thought, neurons fire. When you repeat the thought, they fire again, stronger, faster. Eventually, the brain says, "This seems important. Let's make it automatic." Now you've got a neural groove. This happens whether the pattern serves you or not. Which is why awareness alone isn't enough. You must actively rewire. Here's how you do it. Step 1. Choose the pattern to reinforce. Pick one trait, behavior, or belief you want to become automatic. Be specific, not confidence. Say, "I want to respond to pressure with clarity." This gives your brain a target signal to reinforce. Step 2. Design the repetition loop. Your brain rewires through focused repetition in short bursts. That means daily micro-practices are more powerful than occasional big efforts. Every time you respond with the new pattern, even once, you begin replacing the old one. Step 3. Add emotion. Neurons that fire together wire faster when emotionally charged. If you perform a behavior with excitement, purpose, or even gratitude, your brain prioritizes it. You're not just repeating, you're emotionally coding. Step 4. Interrupt the old path. When the old pattern appears, don't shame it. Interrupt it. You say, "I used to react that way. Now I pause and reset." This self-correction sends a new signal. The brain learns not just from what you do, but from what you no longer tolerate. Step 5. Anchor with identity. Repetition isn't just about action. It's about who you believe you are. Every time you repeat a new behavior, pair it with a statement. This is like me. This is who I am now. Identity plus repetition equals permanent rewire. You're not just thinking differently. You're becoming neurologically different. And that difference shows up in everything. How you enter rooms. How you respond to conflict. How you recover from setbacks. How you generate ideas under pressure. Because your brain isn't guessing who you are anymore. You've trained it. This also explains why most people relapse into old patterns. They change their goals, but not their neural conditioning. So the body defaults to the familiar, even when the familiar no longer fits. But that's not your path now. You're not trying to remember who you want to be. You're building it into your reflexes. Here's a deeper insight. You don't need to do this perfectly. Your brain doesn't require flawless execution. It requires repeated signal in a consistent direction. That direction becomes momentum, and momentum becomes identity. You've now equipped yourself with the biological foundation for sustainable evolution. Next, we will build on this momentum by stacking behaviors in a way that accelerates transformation without burnout. We now move into the physics of momentum stacking. Let's continue. Now that your brain is flexible, it's time to accelerate change. This is how to stack wins so fast they become inevitable. You've trained your mind to rewire. You've seen your behavior influence your identity. You've begun forming patterns that align with your chosen self. Now it's time to go beyond effort. You're ready to activate momentum stacking, the practice of using your own wins as a compound interest engine for transformation. Because change isn't hard. What's hard is starting from zero every time. Momentum stacking eliminates the reset. It builds so much internal energy that growth becomes automatic. Let's clarify what momentum actually is. Momentum isn't just progress. It's progress that generates its own fuel. It's a compounding effect, where one action doesn't just lead to a result. It creates a feedback loop that amplifies your emotional state, belief structure, and behavioral reflexes. When you stack enough of these aligned actions in close succession, the brain shifts from doubt to certainty. And in that certainty, change speeds up. Here's the problem most face. They treat progress as a one-time event. They get a win, feel excited, and then stop. The energy dissipates. They return to baseline, then try again later, back to zero. But when you stack momentum, you never drop back to zero. You use each win to build structural pressure toward the next one, like rocket stages firing in sequence. Let's break it into practice. Step 1. Define micro-wins. Most people set macro goals, but the brain doesn't reward distant outcomes. It rewards short, clear victories. Micro-wins are small, identity-anchoring actions that confirm you are who you say you are. Examples: completing a 5-minute task you normally avoid. Saying no when you usually people-please. Finishing what you start even when motivation fades. Each of these, when done consistently, becomes part of your core code. Step 2. Time stack the wins. Don't scatter them. Stack them tightly in time. 3 wins before noon is more powerful than 10 spread over a month. Why? Because rapid wins fire your neural pathways in succession. They create a cumulative chemical state, dopamine, serotonin, acetylcholine, all signaling to your nervous system. We are evolving. We are winning. That's how belief hardens into certainty. Step 3. Celebrate physically. This may sound small, but it's massive. Each time you hit a micro-win, anchor it with a physical signal. Fist pump. Deep breath and smile. Spoken phrase. That's like me. This seems trivial, but it's training your body to associate success with action, not just thought. That physical reward deepens the wiring. Step 4. Reflect and amplify. At the end of the day, review your wins. Not just the tasks, but who you had to be to do them. You're not journaling what you did. You're journaling the version of you that did it. This reinforces your evolving identity. And identity is the container for all consistent behavior. Step 5. Avoid the momentum leak. The biggest killer of momentum? Unconscious self-sabotage after progress. You feel the rise, then unconsciously disrupt it with distraction, overthinking, or guilt. Why? Because part of you is still adjusting to the idea that winning is safe. Catch it, name it, interrupt it. Say, I allow myself to keep rising, and return to action. This single sentence reauthorizes your momentum. There's something deeper happening here. Momentum is not just psychological. It's energetic architecture. Every action is a brick. And when you place them in rapid, aligned succession, you build structures of belief so stable they don't need constant rebuilding. They support you automatically. This is how people reach seemingly unstoppable states. It's not that they never fall. It's that their momentum is built so intelligently. Falling no longer means starting over. It just means rebalancing and continuing. That's the difference. You've now trained your brain to accelerate. You've learned how to fuel your growth from within. You've created a cycle that feeds itself. Next, we will install the daily systems that maintain and amplify this transformation with minimal effort. Because discipline is great, but rituals make results inevitable. Let's move into the quantum ritual. Let's continue. Momentum builds, but rituals anchor it. Here's how to install quantum rituals, short, potent acts that create lasting transformation. You've built momentum. You've experienced rapid internal wins. You've seen what happens when change becomes compounding. Now you must stabilize the speed, because momentum without structure burns out. Energy without rhythm loses coherence. This is where the power of ritual comes in. But not just any rituals. Quantum rituals, those brief, symbolic, energetically charged actions that reinforce identity, train frequency, and shape your reality with surgical precision. Let's reframe ritual. A ritual is not a routine. A routine manages time. A ritual shapes who you become while you act. It's action done with conscious attention, frequency alignment, and purpose. It may last 30 seconds, but it imprints reality. Here's why it matters. Your brain craves pattern. Your nervous system craves signals. When you embed rituals into your day, you give your system both structure and identity reinforcement. You're not just acting from who you are, you're installing who you are. Let's build yours. Step 1. Identify a ritual trigger point. Pick a moment in your day that repeats. Waking up, starting work, leaving a meeting, ending the day. These moments are energy pivots. Inserting a ritual here turns the moment into a magnetic pull toward your chosen self. Step 2. Define the identity anchor. Ask, what frequency or trait do I want this moment to reinforce? Example, calm power before entering a call. Sharp focus before a task. Gratitude before closing the day. This gives the ritual emotional direction. Now we encode it. Step 3. Choose a ritual format. Keep it under 90 seconds. Examples, a deep breath with a spoken phrase. A physical gesture like a hand over heart. A posture shift with mental intention. Writing a 10-word identity affirmation. These are not chores. They're power switches. Step 4. Add sensory anchors. To deepen the ritual's imprint, use physical cues. Scent, music, touch, light. Example, play the same short track while entering creative work. Over time, your brain associates the sound with deep focus, no willpower needed. That's ritual efficiency. Step 5. Repeat with precision. Repetition builds identity, but only precision repetition creates neural grooves. That means, same time, same intention, same rhythm. This creates a subconscious signal. This is who we are now. Your rituals become identity confirmations. Let's build 3 essential ones. Morning ritual, frequency calibration. Stand still. Breathe deeply 3 times. Say, I respond from clarity. I act from alignment. This sets your default tone. Midday ritual, momentum reset. Step away from task. Stretch or breathe. Say, energy resets now. Focus returns. Interrupt fatigue. Reinforce power. Evening ritual, identity integration. Review 1 win. Speak 1 trait you live today. Say, I'm becoming this fully. This anchors the day into your nervous system. With just these, your day becomes a living identity builder. You're not surviving the hours. You're shaping them, and they begin shaping you back. Ritual is what makes change inevitable. You no longer need motivation. You no longer wait for energy. You've automated alignment. Now your evolution continues while you sleep, because each ritual is a seed. And over time, those seeds become trees that bear fruit in every part of your life. Next, we'll shift from deleting limiting beliefs to constructing mental architecture that cannot be shaken. We now enter the domain of thought architecture. Let's continue. You've cleared old beliefs. Now let's build unshakable new ones, brick by brick, idea by idea. You've uninstalled what didn't belong. You've detoxed beliefs that were never truly yours. You've seen how daily rituals can multiply your identity. Now comes the construction, not of fantasies, not of vague optimism, but of thought architecture, belief structures so stable they don't collapse when tested. They don't need constant maintenance. They don't fade when things get difficult. These are beliefs that become mental scaffolding, supporting your entire life structure. Here's the trap most people fall into. They think beliefs are just thoughts you repeat. But beliefs aren't words. They are neurological commitments backed by emotional certainty. If that commitment is fragile, the belief collapses under stress. That's why change often fails. People try to install new beliefs without creating structural integrity. You're going to build them like architecture, intentionally, layered, reinforced. Let's begin. Step 1. Choose your pillar beliefs. These are the 5 to 7 core statements you want to govern your decisions, energy, and identity. Examples: my energy creates my outcomes. I'm safe to expand, even when it's unfamiliar. I trust myself more than I fear failure. You're not looking for motivational quotes. You're looking for foundations. Step 2. Test for structural soundness. For each pillar, ask, could I say this during a breakdown and still believe it? Can I say this aloud without feeling like I'm lying? If the answer is no, adjust the language. Beliefs must be just beyond your current identity, but not out of emotional reach. They must feel like a stretch, not a fantasy. Step 3. Build the emotional frame. Beliefs don't hold unless they're emotionally encoded. Pick one pillar belief. Now recall a moment, any moment, when that belief already felt true. Even for 5 seconds. Revisit it. Feel it. Anchor that emotion to the belief. This creates an emotional frame around the thought. Now it's not just mental, it's somatic. Step 4. Architect with repetition plus resistance. Repetition alone isn't enough. You must repeat the belief while experiencing mild resistance. Why? Because beliefs grow stronger when tested. Say the belief out loud when you feel uncertain, you hesitate before action, you feel emotional noise. Each repetition during resistance becomes a structural reinforcement, like concrete setting under pressure. Step 5. Confirm through behavior. Now take small actions that validate the belief. For I trust myself more than I fear failure. Send the message. Have the conversation. Launch the thing. Behavior is the final brick. Once you act, the belief moves from theory to structure. Let's go deeper. Beliefs become unbreakable when they're linked. You don't just want isolated ideas. You want a mesh of mental support beams. Link beliefs into statements like, because I trust my energy, I allow bold decisions, even when they scare me. Now the beliefs reinforce each other. That's architectural integrity. Here's a tool. Belief Blueprint Grid. Create a grid with 3 columns. Pillar belief. Emotion it activates. Action that confirms it. Do this once a week. This reminds your nervous system, I don't just think differently, I live differently. Let's address setbacks. Sometimes a belief gets shaken. You feel like a fraud. You slip back into doubt. You regress. Good. That's your test. This is your opportunity to pour reinforcement into the structure. You ask, what would the version of me who believes this do right now? And then you do it imperfectly if needed. That's belief in motion. Your mind stops seeing beliefs as fragile. It sees them as resilient. Like skyscrapers, they may sway in the wind, but they don't collapse, because the foundation was designed that way. You've now built a grid of thoughts that hold you, not just on good days, on all days. That's the power of thought architecture. But now that your beliefs are stable, you're ready to ignite them, to enter states of mind that activate your highest intelligence, energy, and focus at will. We now move into the Superstate protocol. Let's continue. It's time to go beyond mastery. Let's create superstates, a fusion of intention, emotion, and presence that unlocks your fullest potential. Your foundation is in place. Your beliefs are architected with precision. Your rituals keep you aligned. Now we enter the activation layer, where you stop waiting to feel inspired, where you stop reacting to energy, where you learn to summon elevated, creative, powerful mental states on demand. These are called superstates, states where clarity, confidence, creativity, and command fuse into a single frequency. Not occasionally, but when you decide. Let's define it clearly. A superstate is not hype. It's not overcaffeinated motivation. It's not pretending to be on. It's a coherent fusion of thought alignment, emotional voltage, somatic readiness, intentional focus. This fusion allows you to operate at levels that most experience only by accident. You'll now do it by choice. The protocol has 3 core phases: priming, charging, channeling. Let's break each one down. Phase 1, priming. This phase is about clearing mental clutter. You can't enter a superstate from noise. Before activation, do a 2-minute reset, 10 slow breaths. Speak 1 power phrase aloud. Sit or stand with posture fully aligned. You're not meditating. You're emptying, so the signal can come through clean. Phase 2, charging. Now you activate emotional voltage. Pick the state you want: calm certainty, bold energy, deep creative flow. Visualize a moment where you already lived that. Let the memory activate emotion. Now amplify it. Breathe into it. Move your body to match it. You're not imagining. You're becoming. Here's the secret. Your body leads your state. If your posture is dull, your energy will follow. Stand tall, shoulders back, breath full. This physical structure charges the circuit. Phase 3, channeling. Now you act. Step into the task, speaking, creating, leading, deciding. But with one rule: you stay in state the entire time. If the emotion starts to fade, pause, reset, recharge. You are not allowed to exit the frequency. You stay in signal until the task is complete. This teaches your brain: this is who I become when I act. Repetition locks that identity in. Here's a framework to codify your personal superstate. Name it: unshakable clarity, magnetic command, creative infinity. Define its posture, breath, emotion, and language. Assign it a 3-word trigger phrase. Activate it before any mission that matters. Now you have a coded identity state you can enter on cue. You're not hoping to be in the mood. You're training your nervous system to serve your intention. And with repetition, your baseline rises. You don't just access superstates. You begin to live from them. Let's take it further. Stack multiple superstates across your day. 1 for creating, 1 for social flow, 1 for recovery. You're now building a modular performance system that adapts to your needs in real time. Not chaotic, not rigid, responsive. Like a martial artist adapting to terrain, you become fluent in flow. Now here's the final insight. Superstates don't replace rest. They replace waiting. You no longer need to wait for a good day. You create one. On command. On rhythm. On purpose. You've learned to switch it on. And soon it'll never switch off. Next we step into the most advanced layer of awareness. Observing the one who observes. We now unlock the meta-observer. Let's continue. You've mastered thoughts, emotions, identity. But who's watching the watcher? This is the mind's final frontier. You've rewired beliefs. You've activated high-frequency states. You've stepped into intentional performance, emotional sovereignty, and clear identity. But there's still one layer deeper. It's not a practice. It's not a ritual. It's not a mindset. It's a mode of being where you become aware of the one who is aware. This is the meta-observer. It's not just watching your thoughts. It's noticing the structure that watches your thoughts. It's observing the observer. Why does this matter? Because no matter how advanced you become, thoughts will still rise. Emotions will still fluctuate. Sensations will still come and go. But if you are identified with any of them, they own your reality. The meta-observer is the final seat of clarity. It's the one point within you that never moves, never reacts, never resists, simply sees. And in that seeing, power returns. Most people stop at basic mindfulness. They learn to notice their thoughts and label emotions. That's useful, but it's first-level awareness. The meta-observer does something else. It notices the identity structure that's trying to make sense of the moment. You no longer just ask, "What am I thinking?" You ask, "Who is the I that's thinking this right now?" This question unhooks the loop, creates instant psychological space. Let's look at it in action. You feel frustrated. Normal mind says, "I'm frustrated. Something's wrong. I must solve this." Basic awareness says, "I notice frustration. I can let it pass." Meta-observer says, "There's a version of me experiencing frustration, but that's not the whole of me, and I am not bound to believe what that version feels." Now, you don't suppress the feeling. You simply don't become it. That's liberation. Here's a practical entry point. Snapshot the self. Anytime you feel emotionally activated, pause and ask, "Who am I being right now? What story is this version of me running? What does this version of me believe is true?" Then breathe. Observe without editing. Let the answers rise. The moment you see the actor in the mind, you step into the role of director. You stop being reactive. You start being relational to yourself, your thoughts, and your energy. Now even intense emotion becomes data, not danger. This awareness gives you a superpower. You become unfused from your thoughts. Thoughts can shout. Thoughts can seduce. Thoughts can spiral. But now they don't hook you, because you're not inside them. You're outside, witnessing the machine at work. And that vantage point changes everything. You also begin to notice the mind's attempts to stay in control. The subtle need to label, to predict, to judge, to fix. The meta-observer sees all of it, and still stays still. Not numb, not passive, just aware. And that stillness becomes your command center. Now here's the deeper gift. From this vantage point, you can actually choose which version of self to activate. You see the frustrated self, the calm self, the visionary self, the fearful self, and you select which one leads. You're not at war with them. You're in conscious relationship, and you lead from presence, not pattern. This is the meta-observer. It's not something you need to achieve. It's already there. It's the space behind your face, the awareness behind the words, the silence that sees. And now that you're in touch with it, your communication changes. Because when you're this aware, you begin to realize you are always broadcasting. Your energy speaks, not just to yourself, but to everyone and everything around you. Next, we will explore the entanglement effect. Let's continue. What if your thoughts were entangled with those of others? Learn how your vibe influences and predicts your relationships and outcomes. You've become the observer of the observer. You've unlocked the still point inside. You now lead from space, not from story. But here's the part most miss. That space within you affects everything around you. Your frequency is not private. Your mental state is not isolated. It radiates, connects, it entangles. Welcome to the entanglement effect. Quantum physics has shown us something wild. Particles that were once connected continue to influence each other, no matter how far apart they are. Your energy works the same way. Every interaction you've had, every bond you've formed, every space you've entered, leaves a subtle energetic imprint. And more importantly, it shapes the field you operate in now. Let's make it real. Ever walked into a room and instantly felt tension? Before a word was spoken? That's entanglement. Your system picks up signals beyond the senses. You don't just read people. You read their broadcast field, and they read yours. This matters because you are always transmitting. You may be saying, "I'm fine," but your field is radiating fear, doubt, or resistance. You may be offering help, but your energy says, "I don't trust myself." People don't respond to your words. They respond to your signal. And that signal is generated by your inner state. Here's the shift. Start asking yourself, moment to moment, what am I broadcasting right now? Does my field match my words? If I said nothing, what would people still feel from me? This awareness changes how you show up. Now you're not trying to control others. You're tuning your internal coherence. because you know it's the real communicator. Here's a practice: field calibration ritual. Before any interaction, whether in person, online, or internal, ask, what do I want to transmit? Then, breathe in for 4, hold for 4, breathe out for 6, hold for 2. Do this 3 times. Then speak your chosen frequency aloud. I transmit grounded clarity. I radiate calm authority. I emanate trust and presence. Let that signal lead the moment. This is subtle power, not force, not manipulation, just vibrational coherence. And it shifts everything. People listen more, rooms soften, resistance lowers, because you're not selling anything. You're being something. Here's another key insight. Entanglement doesn't just influence others. It mirrors you. If your field is scattered, you'll attract confusion. If your field is needy, you'll repel the very thing you crave. If your field is sovereign, you'll magnetize alignment. That's not magic. That's energetic math. Start tracking your field outcomes. Ask, what did I just attract? What was I actually feeling when that result showed up? What signal did I unconsciously send? Over time, patterns emerge. And once you see them, you can change them. You become deliberate. Here's the final gift of entanglement. You don't need to control anyone. You just tune yourself, and the world begins tuning to you, not because you're manipulating, but because you're in resonance. And resonance attracts. Resonance stabilizes. Resonance creates new possibilities. You now see that your state shapes your field. Your field shapes your life. Next, we use this field intentionally to form relationships that evolve you, not drain you, not distract you, but expand you. We now enter quantum relationships. Let's continue. If you're entangled, let's choose consciously. Here's how to attract relationships that evolve and empower you. You've learned to tune your personal field. You've become aware of how your state sends a signal. You've seen that every interaction, no matter how subtle, is an energetic agreement. Now the question becomes, who are you calling into your world? And what are those connections doing to your energy? It's time to stop meeting people. It's time to start manifesting connections that match your frequency. Stretch your vision and support your transformation. This is the work of quantum relationships. Let's clear something up. Relationships aren't just emotional dynamics. They are energetic containers. Every connection you hold, friend, partner, collaborator, client, is influencing your identity, choices, and direction. The people around you aren't just part of your story. They're shaping it in real time. And whether you realize it or not, they are either reinforcing your highest self or feeding your outdated programming. So here's the first shift. Stop thinking of relationships in terms of preference. Start thinking of them in terms of resonance. Ask, does this person expand or compress my energy? Do I feel more like myself or less? After we interact, am I choosing this connection consciously or from old programming? Clarity begins there. Now let's get strategic. Step 1. Clarify your relational frequency. Before you attract, connect, or deepen any relationship, ask, what kind of field am I available for? Not in terms of traits, but in terms of vibration. Examples: mutual expansion, not codependence. Creative alignment, not emotional babysitting. Radical honesty, not subtle performance. This becomes your relational template. Step 2. Audit your existing network. This part is non-negotiable. Scan your current field. Ask for each connection. What version of me does this person activate? Do they reinforce a pattern I'm outgrowing? Is this dynamic reciprocal or extractive? Don't rush to cut people off. Just recognize the energetic structure. You're not judging them. You're protecting your alignment. Step 3. Upgrade your availability. Here's the principle most miss. You don't attract what you want. You attract what your field is available for. If you crave empowered connections but still tolerate guilt loops, fake intimacy, or over-explaining, you're broadcasting mixed signals. Your availability must match your desire. That means you update your standards. You speak your truth cleanly. You say no without apology. These aren't boundaries. They're vibrational filters. Step 4. Create connection from wholeness. Relationships formed from lack always lead to chaos. You're no longer calling people in to complete you. You're co-creating with people who meet you. That's the difference. When you enter connection from wholeness, you don't cling. You don't chase. You collaborate. You're not outsourcing your emotional regulation. You're bringing energy to the table. Now the relationship becomes expansive. Step 5. Speak the frequency, not the formula. Want to know the fastest way to call in quantum-level connections? Speak in signal. Talk from the version of you that already lives in clarity, creativity, and self-trust. You don't need perfect language. You need clean energy. That authenticity transmits. And the right people recognize it immediately. They don't need context. They feel you, and they show up because you stopped hiding. Let's go even deeper. Quantum relationships don't just impact your mood. They impact your timeline. The right connection can collapse a decade of waiting. Why? Because aligned energy creates accelerated feedback loops. You evolve faster in the right field. You see yourself clearer through upgraded mirrors. You feel safer expanding into new versions. One conversation with the right person can shift your entire life direction. And that's not luck. That's entangled alignment. Now that you understand how to consciously call in and maintain these connections, it's time to explore the collective dimension. What happens when you synchronize with a group field, where everyone is aligned, intentional, and powerful? That's not collaboration. That's group field mastery. Let's continue. Relationships affect your field, so imagine what a group field could do. Learn how to co-create with others in flow and purpose. You've mastered your own frequency. You've begun calling in relationships that reflect your evolved self. Now we take it further. What happens when multiple individuals, each aligned in intention and clarity, enter a shared field together, not to compete, but to co-create? You activate what's known as a collective resonance field. And that field has the power to generate outcomes that no individual could produce alone. This is group field mastery. Let's break the illusion first. Most teams, circles, or collectives don't fail from lack of talent. They fail from energetic interference, hidden power struggles, mismatched agendas, unspoken insecurity, lack of shared rhythm. That's not a people problem. It's a field coherence problem. You're about to fix that. Here's the principle. In any group, a shared field forms, whether intentionally or not. If that field is polluted, chaotic, or unclear, you'll feel it as unexplained friction, communication breakdown, idea fatigue, loss of focus. But when the field is clean, aligned, and tuned, something else happens. You enter group flow, where ideas bounce faster, decisions sync naturally, energy regenerates instead of depletes. Let's create that. Step 1. Field declaration. When forming or entering a group, state the field explicitly. This is not about goals or tasks. It's about the energy we agree to hold together. Examples. We co-create from clarity and mutual respect. We lead with alignment over urgency. We speak truth, not comfort. This declaration becomes the vibrational contract. Step 2. Establish the signal leaders. In every group, some members hold stronger frequencies. Not louder voices, clearer signal. Identify the people who can hold state, interrupt noise, and stabilize the group energetically. They don't dominate. They anchor. Their job is to sense when the field slips and bring it back. Step 3. Group rituals for coherence. Every team or circle needs energetic resets. Daily or weekly, take 2 to 5 minutes to recalibrate together. Options: breath work, joint intention setting, speaking one shared affirmation aloud. These aren't productivity hacks. They're field harmonizers. They return everyone to signal. Step 4. Practice frequency feedback. In traditional feedback, people talk behavior. In energetic feedback, people share field impact. You say, "When you speak that way, I feel contraction. That idea felt energizing. I noticed tension rise after that topic." This builds relational honesty without making it personal. It teaches the group to listen with more than ears. Step 5. Protect the field at all costs. You must treat the shared field as sacred. This means no silent resentment, no passive dissonance, no energetic freeloaders. If someone isn't maintaining integrity, it must be addressed, not with blame, with clarity, because once the field is fractured, it takes massive effort to restore. When done right, group field mastery gives you something rare, exponential flow. You no longer grow alone. You rise together, fast, because one person's insight becomes everyone's shift. One person's calm stabilizes the whole container. One person's expansion lifts the others into their next level. It's not 1 + 1 + 1. It's geometric. It's a living matrix of amplified evolution. You've now learned how to build personal frequency, upgrade intimate dynamics, and operate as part of a high-functioning collective. Next, we evolve the way your mind actually processes information. It's time to think in dimensions beyond logic, beyond sequence, beyond form. We now enter the mind of the future, the dimensional mind. Let's continue. It's time to transcend logic. Discover how to think like a 4D mind, where creativity, strategy, and intuition merge. You've experienced what it means to move as a coherent being. You've seen the power of shared fields, clear signals, and aligned collaboration. But now you must evolve the way you think. Not just what you think about, not just how quickly you think, but the actual shape of your thinking. You're leaving behind linear cognition. You're stepping into dimensional awareness. This is the dimensional mind, a mind that doesn't march from A to B, but sees the entire map at once. Here's the problem with traditional thinking. It's confined to sequential logic. One step leads to another. One idea follows the next. This is useful for machines, but not for the human nervous system. Your intuition doesn't work linearly. Your memory doesn't store data in folders. Your creativity doesn't rise in order. And if you try to think like a machine, you'll kill your genius. Dimensional thinking is how your brain is actually wired to operate. It processes simultaneous streams, visual input, emotional tone, memory recall, energy reading, inner dialogue, somatic awareness, and it does it in real time. But if you're trying to operate from narrow focus and hard logic, you're suppressing 90% of your inner power. Here's what happens when you unlock dimensional cognition. You start seeing ideas as structures, not lists. You sense connections between unrelated fields. You process emotional nuance, energetic shifts, and pattern dynamics without getting lost in the noise. It's not mental multitasking. It's holistic cognitive fusion. Let's bring this to life. A dimensional thinker doesn't just ask, "What's the next step?" They ask, "What's the shape of this situation? Where is the friction in the energy field? How do these elements want to organize themselves?" You're not solving. You're listening to the entire intelligence of the moment. Here's how to build it. Step 1. Practice mind spherical awareness. Sit still and let your focus expand. Don't visualize forward. Feel your awareness 360 degrees around you. Include your environment. Include your body. Include the space between your thoughts. Now think from there. This expands your perception field beyond a single track. Step 2. Use meta-language questions. Dimensional thinkers don't ask what's right or wrong. They ask, what's aligned? What's energetically clean? What possibility am I not seeing yet? These questions activate nonlinear logic, which taps into pattern recognition, intuition, and internal resonance. Step 3. Think in grids, not lists. Start mapping ideas as grids, horizontal and vertical alignments. Put core concepts on the x-axis. Put related energy layers on the Y. Example, on the X, clarity, emotion, strategy. On the Y, personal, relational, mission. Now start filling in insights where they overlap. This simple practice will train your brain to build multidimensional understanding. Step 4. Feel the idea before finalizing it. When a concept arises, don't rush to define it. First ask, what frequency does this idea carry? What happens in my body when I consider this? Let the idea talk to you before you structure it. Now your cognition is synced with your intuition. Step 5. Drop the need for closure. Linear minds obsess over closure. Did I figure it out? Is it done? Do I know enough? Dimensional minds relax into open loops. They hold multiple truths at once. They allow answers to reveal themselves over time, without urgency, without fear. This is where long-range genius lives. You're now thinking across layers, not down steps. And that opens the final superpower of dimensional awareness. You stop playing odds. You start influencing probabilities. Your perception expands so much. You begin to tip outcomes in your favor. Not by pushing, but by positioning. It's time to learn bending probability. Let's continue. Beyond logic lies quantum choice. Learn the art of tipping probabilities and stacking luck on your side. You've begun to think like a multidimensional being. You're no longer locked in cause and effect reasoning. You've felt the power of intuitive structure and nonlinear cognition. Now it's time to upgrade how you engage with chance itself. Because in quantum reality, nothing is fixed. Everything operates as probability waves. And your choices, your energy, your focus, your readiness determine which outcomes become most likely. This is the art of bending probability. Let's reframe this. Most people live by reaction to circumstance. They assume, if it happens, it happens. If I get lucky, great. If not, try again. This isn't humility. It's passive programming. The truth? Luck is not random. It's energetic positioning, and you can shape it. Let's explore how. Step 1. Shift from prediction to preparation. Stop obsessing over what might happen. Start focusing on what version of you is ready to receive it. Ask, what is the version of me that this opportunity would naturally land for? What am I doing? Saying, radiating when that version is active. The probability of success increases not by aiming harder, but by becoming more compatible with that outcome. Step 2. Activate the frequency of completion early. Don't wait for the win to feel like a winner. Feel it now. Act as if it's already happened, not in fantasy, but in frequency calibration. Let that emotion shape your body, your words, your posture. Now you're bending timelines toward fulfillment. You're drawing the outcome closer by collapsing the emotional gap between you and it. Step 3. Use field language instead of outcome desperation. When discussing goals, most people leak their power. They speak in lack. I hope this works. If I can just make it happen. I need this. This signals doubt to the field. Instead, speak in grounded certainty. I'm aligned with this result. I've made space for this to land. This is a match to the version I'm becoming. Now the field recognizes resonance. That tips probability. Step 4. Expect disruption without losing frequency. Here's where most lose momentum. They try to bend probability, but collapse when the path gets messy. Disruption is not a rejection. It's a reroute. You hold the frequency regardless of the form. Now the universe adjusts its math. It reshuffles paths, but still moves toward your broadcasted outcome. Step 5. Increase surface area for synchronicity. You don't need to control the outcome. You need to increase the surface area of exposure. Show up where aligned people gather. Speak about what matters publicly. Make bold decisions that carry your signature. Each of these actions amplifies your probability window. You're not chasing. You're becoming easier to find. And that magnetizes the aligned path. Here's the final insight. Probability doesn't favor the lucky. It favors the aligned and coherent. When your intention, Language, emotion, and actions match. Reality doesn't resist. It adapts, converges, tips, and what seemed unlikely becomes inevitable. You now have the tools to influence timing, attract opportunity, and collapse delays. Next, we'll explore where all your patterning originates, your subconscious grid, and how to rewrite the code beneath your personality. Let's continue. You're influencing probability now, but behind it all is your hidden OS. Let's dive into your subconscious code and edit the blueprint. You've started tipping outcomes in your favor. You've seen how energy and expectation alter timelines. You've learned to operate outside traditional logic and inside influence. But there's one layer deeper than decision, frequency, or even identity. It's the subconscious grid, your internal operating system running in the background, silently dictating your behavior, reactions, beliefs, and energetic ceiling. This isn't just mindset. It's the root-level software beneath your conscious choices. And if you don't reprogram it intentionally, you'll keep rewriting the surface, while the core code pulls you back to old defaults. Let's make this plain. The subconscious grid is not your enemy. It's your protection mechanism. It was built through years of repetition, trauma, praise, pain, patterns, and survival. Its primary directive is safety, not expansion. And that's why it often resists change. Even when your conscious mind screams, "I want success," if the grid equates success with exposure or rejection, you'll sabotage yourself without knowing why. This is the hidden war between desire and identity. You don't need to fight it. You need to rewrite the architecture that created it. Here's how we do that. Step 1. Identify your core subconscious agreements. Ask, what have I unconsciously agreed to believe about myself? What must be true in my inner world for my outer reality to keep repeating? Don't filter. Let it rise. Common examples. It's safer to be invisible. Being powerful makes people uncomfortable. I can't be both wealthy and loved. These are not just beliefs. They are energetic contracts you signed without realizing it. Step 2. Trace the emotional origin. Your grid didn't just appear. It was formed in emotional moments, charged events that encoded meaning. Ask, when did I first feel that being seen was dangerous? Who modeled fear around money, expression, or success? What event confirmed this belief as truth in my body? You're not looking for blame. You're tracing roots so you can remove them. Step 3. Interrupt the grid with present proof. Now that you see the origin, create microevidence that contradicts the code. If the belief is, if I'm successful, people leave, intentionally show up in your brilliance and track every moment where you were celebrated, not rejected. Write it, speak it, repeat it until the nervous system gets the new signal. That's how the grid weakens. Step 4. Install conscious commands. Subconscious reprogramming needs rhythm, not random affirmations. Command inputs. These are short, emotionally charged phrases repeated with full presence. Example, it's safe to grow fast. Being powerful expands my relationships. I now live from chosen truth, not inherited fear. Say them aloud. Say them during emotional spikes. Say them right after you act with alignment. This is when the grid is most programmable. Step 5. Rehearse the new default under pressure. The grid reasserts itself in stress. That's the moment to test your install. You get triggered? Pause. Feel the old code rise, and consciously run the new one. This might feel mechanical at first, but each time you override the old reflex with a new command, you are cutting and rewiring the root pattern. That's reprogramming. Let's make this even clearer. Your subconscious grid is not a metaphor. It's a living neural system inside your body. And every time you rewrite a piece of it, you don't just change thoughts. You change your capacity to receive and hold a new life experience. It's not about deserving. It's about compatibility. You've now learned how to decode the beliefs beneath your behaviors, trace their emotional source, and rewire the operating system they're built on. But the real magic happens when you take this upgraded grid and use it to shape your entire reality field, a living paradigm where your mind, body, space, and future operate as one. That's next. Welcome to reality fields. Let's continue. With your code rewritten, it's time to step into a whole new field, a living reality shaped by your mind and presence. You've rewritten the hidden code. You've restructured your internal operating system. You've seen how a shift in programming changes behavior and outcomes. But now we go beyond rewiring. It's time to design the environment in which your new identity thrives. This is not just about mindset. This is about constructing a new reality field, a coherent container made of thoughts, choices, energy, space, and language that reflect the life you now claim. You're not reacting to the world anymore. You're authoring the rules inside it. Let's be clear. Your reality is not external. It's a field, an intersection of internal frequency and external feedback. That field is constantly updating based on what you tolerate, what you expect, what you repeat, what you speak, what you feel worthy of. Change the field, and the world rearranges itself around you. Let's build your reality field deliberately. Step 1. Define the laws of your field. Every powerful field has rules. Not to limit, but to anchor. Ask, what realities am I now available for? What is no longer permitted in this version of me? What energy is required for this field to stay stable? Write 5 to 7 laws. Examples. Only clarity is spoken in this field. Growth is honored more than comfort. My space reflects my inner expansion. These become your field code. Step 2. Align physical space with energetic intention. Look around. Your environment is either supporting your expansion or leaking your energy. Clear clutter. Add anchors, visuals, objects, colors, sounds that resonate with your new identity. This isn't aesthetics. It's field engineering. Every item in your space is a signal. Let it match your future, not your past. Step 3. Speak as the field's creator, not its inhabitant. Stop narrating your life from the level of reaction. Start describing your life from the level of creation. Don't say, I hope I make it. Say, this is what I'm building. It's already forming. You're not a resident. You're the architect. Speak like it. Step 4. Embed triggers that reinforce the field. Create micro-triggers, sounds, phrases, habits that keep your energy calibrated. Examples. A phone alarm with a mantra. Specific music before creative work. Touching a necklace or ring and repeating a phrase. These don't just remind you who you are. They restabilize the field mid-chaos. Step 5. Collapse old fields with finality. You cannot live in 2 fields at once. If there are environments, relationships, habits, or digital spaces that reflect your old identity, release them, lovingly, firmly, completely. This isn't cruelty. It's energetic integrity. You are now holding a new field. Cannot tolerate interference. Your reality field becomes your amplifier. It reflects your energy. It echoes your words. It responds to your clarity. And over time, it begins producing outcomes. Not because you force them, but because they can't not happen in a field this aligned. This is what the world calls flow. But now you know the architecture behind it. You've moved from internal reprogramming to external coherence. Next, we'll sharpen the final layer of mastery, the power of non-reaction, and how silence becomes your strongest signal. We now enter silence as a weapon. Let's continue. You've mastered the outer game. Now conquer the inner one with the most underestimated weapon of all, sacred silence. You've constructed your reality field. You've edited your subconscious code. You're building from alignment, not desperation. But now, the external noise will try to test your clarity. People will question your shift. Distractions will surge. Triggers will poke at your boundaries. Here's where most people fail. They defend, explain, argue, or justify. But when your field is clear, your most powerful move is no move at all. This is the power of silence as a weapon. Let's strip the emotion out of it. Silence isn't avoidance. It's not shutdown. It's not fear. It's strategic, energetic conservation. It's what you use when words weaken the frequency, and stillness multiplies your command. Here's the truth. Every time you react to chaos, you drain signal. You bring your field down to match noise. You validate dysfunction with your attention. But silence? Silence holds state. Silence says, this does not enter my paradigm. It's not passive. It's directive. Let's look at where to apply it. Moment 1. In response to provocation. Someone misjudges your intention. They push emotional buttons. They bait you into defense. Your old self would correct them. The quantum self recognizes, I don't need to fix your perception. Silence becomes your declaration. My truth doesn't need rescue. Moment 2. When clarity is being tested. When others question your direction, doubt your path, or subtly shame your expansion, you don't shrink. You don't explain. You stay silent because your clarity is not up for debate. Moment 3. In the face of energy vampires. You'll feel it. The person who pulls at your attention without purpose. The loop that never ends. The drama that's looking for fuel. Give it your words, and you give it your life force. Withdraw language. Withdraw access. Silence becomes your firewall. Now let's talk about the inner dimension. Silence is not just outward. It's inward. The ability to not react to your own thoughts. To feel the surge and still not follow the story. To sit with discomfort and not solve it prematurely. This is where power multiplies. Practice. Tactical internal silence. The next time you feel a thought rising, anxiety, anger, urgency, pause. Don't interpret it. Don't judge it. Don't fix it. Just notice. Let it pass like weather. And watch what happens. You'll feel your observer self take the lead. You'll stop identifying with the storm. And that stillness will give rise to clarity. Here's what most miss. Silence is not the absence of power. It's the containment of power. Like a coiled spring. Like a loaded circuit. Like a laser, not a floodlight. You don't broadcast your energy constantly. You concentrate it. And then you choose exactly where it flows. This doesn't make you passive. It makes you dangerous to the forces of chaos. Because you're no longer programmable. You're no longer seeking approval. You're no longer reacting to noise. You've become a master of presence. Want to multiply this skill? Practice these 3. The 5-second stillness rule. Before responding to anything charged, pause for 5 full seconds. Let the initial reflex dissolve. Then speak if it still feels necessary. Silent mornings. Spend the first 15 minutes of every day without speaking or consuming content. Let your field stabilize before the world enters. The 1-breath reset. When noise creeps in, take 1 conscious breath. Anchor back into your observer. 1 breath is all it takes to reclaim command. You now see silence not as absence, but as pure voltage. It becomes your boundary, your clarity, your declaration. It is proof that your energy speaks louder than your voice. And now, from that silence, true wealth begins to form, not from currency, but from vibrational capital. Next, we will redefine prosperity itself. Welcome to energy wealth. Let's continue. With silence and presence, true power emerges. What if wealth wasn't numbers but energy? Let's redefine abundance. You've learned to withhold your energy from the unworthy. You've seen how restraint creates potency. You've felt the sovereignty that silence reveals. Now we redefine the word wealth. Not in terms of finance, not in terms of accumulation, but in terms of energetic surplus. Because in this paradigm, wealth is not what you possess. It's what you can generate, sustain, and circulate without depletion. This is energy wealth. Let's challenge a common narrative. People chase money not for its own sake, but for the states they believe it will unlock. Freedom, ease, power, options. But if you can access those states before the numbers show up, you're no longer trapped by numbers. You're already wealthy. And from that state, money becomes a match, not a need. Here's the shift. Instead of asking, how do I earn more? Ask, how do I hold more power without leaking it? Because the wealthiest people vibrationally are not the busiest. They're the clearest. They know what to say no to. They know how to invest their attention. They know where energy compounds. Let's walk you through the blueprint of energy wealth. Step 1. Define your energetic ROI. Just like financial investors evaluate return, you now evaluate every task, interaction, and decision through this filter. Does this action cost more energy than it returns? If the return is internal clarity, resonance, or visibility, great. If not, it's a leak. You only grow when the input feeds the output. Step 2. Audit your energy accounts. Look at where your energy is invested. People, content, tasks, self-talk, habits. Now score each 1 to 10. How much does this return versus how much it drains? Then reallocate. Like financial capital, energy must flow toward aligned outcomes. Step 3. Generate, don't extract. Scarcity mindset drains you because it sees energy as limited. Wealth mindset sees energy as generative. You don't take energy, you create it. Through creation, through connection, through clarity of mission. Want more vitality? Do more that expands you. Step 4. Treat joy as currency. Joy isn't a bonus. It's a multiplier. When you operate from joy, you activate coherence across your system. You think faster. You connect deeper. You attract more. Protect joy like your best investment. It yields the highest compounding return. Step 5. Stop outsourcing wealth to the external. Energy wealth means you're no longer dependent on conditions. You're not waiting for the raise, the validation, the windfall. You're already rich because you've mastered where your power flows. From that place, money becomes natural. Not forced. Not chased. Aligned. Let's say it straight. The old world said wealth is what you own. The new world says wealth is what you emit, what you attract, and what you can sustain without loss of self. And when others feel that from you, they'll want to pay, join, align, or build with you, because your energy becomes the most credible currency. You now know how to generate inner surplus, hold coherent frequency, and move as a high-value node in any system. Next, we fuse everything you've learned and train you to walk through life as a being of presence, clarity, and impact. You are now ready to embody the quantum warrior. Let's continue. You are now equipped, but can you walk this path daily? With precision, presence, and peace? It's time to train as a quantum warrior. You've built inner alignment. You've mastered emotional sovereignty. You've expanded into energy wealth. But all of that means nothing if you cannot move through life with consistency, clarity, and grounded strength. This is where power becomes embodied. This is where theory ends and presence begins. This is the path of the quantum warrior. Let's be clear, this is not about aggression. It's not about competition. It's not about domination. The warrior we speak of is forged in awareness, refined by stillness, sharpened through intention. A quantum warrior doesn't react to chaos. They organize it. They don't chase control. They become the signal others calibrate to. What defines a quantum warrior? Not their past, not their status, not their talents, but how they move, precision in action, purpose in direction, peace in the face of uncertainty. These are the 3 traits that shape unshakable presence. Trait 1, precision in action. The quantum warrior doesn't waste energy. They speak with clarity. They act with efficiency. They move only when it's time to move. There is no over-explaining, no proving, no performative effort. Everything they do has weight. This means they say no without guilt. They say yes with their full body. They speak only when the signal is clean. This isn't minimalism. It's energetic mastery. Practice the power pause. Before making any decision, Apply a 3-second pause. Ask, is this aligned with the version of me I'm becoming? If yes, proceed. If not, wait. This one pause prevents 100 missteps. Trait 2. Purpose in direction. The quantum warrior doesn't drift. They are pulled by vision, not pushed by fear. This doesn't mean they always know the full plan. It means they know their why and every move serves it. Their goals aren't reactive. They are encoded with meaning. This allows them to say, this is not my fight. This is not my pace. This is not my path. They don't follow urgency. They follow inner signal. Practice. Daily aim declaration. Each morning, speak your direction aloud. Not in vague goals, in felt alignment. Examples. Today I move with calm precision. Today I only engage what multiplies clarity. This anchors the day in conscious direction. Trait 3. Peace in uncertainty. The greatest flex of the quantum warrior isn't dominance. It's stillness under pressure. They are not addicted to certainty. They are loyal to presence. They know storms are not enemies. Delays are not denials. Discomfort is not danger, because their peace isn't external. It's a frequency they protect from within. Practice. The unshakable breath. When tension rises, place one hand on your chest. One deep inhale. Exhale slowly through the mouth. Say mentally, I am not this moment. I am the one moving through it. Do this 3 times. Watch your nervous system recalibrate. Here's the truth no one tells you. Power without peace burns out. Purpose without precision wastes years. Peace without direction gets lost in spiritual bypass. You need all 3, like sword, compass, and armor. This is the quantum warrior. And now, as you carry this state forward, you unlock something radical, the ability to reverse biological time, not as a metaphor, but through neural regulation, vibrational state, and quantum mind-body coherence. Next, you learn how mastery over self regenerates your biology. We now enter reverse aging through mind mastery. Let's continue. Warriors don't age, they evolve. Discover how your mindset and vibration can literally reverse aging and regenerate your biology. You've become precise in your movements. You've infused your actions with clarity and purpose. You've stabilized peace as your baseline. Now you're ready for a deeper truth. Your biology follows your mind. And when your mind is trained for coherence, your body begins to regenerate instead of decay. This is not wishful thinking. This is energetic physiology. Welcome to the art of reverse aging through mind mastery. Let's ground this. Aging is not just about years. It's about inflammation, dysregulation, and energetic stagnation. These are amplified by chronic stress, mental loops, emotional suppression, disconnection from joy, misalignment with purpose, all of which are governed by your mental field. When your mind is reactive, your body becomes a battlefield. When your mind is clear, your body becomes a temple. This is how you reverse time, not through magic, but alignment. Let's walk through the mechanisms. 1. Thought-based hormonal shifts. Every thought pattern triggers a chemical response. Stressful thought equals cortisol surge. Empowered thought equals dopamine or oxytocin release. The longer you dwell in a frequency, the more your body becomes conditioned to that hormonal pattern. So if your default is anxiety, your biology accelerates where? If your default is coherence, your biology restores itself. 2. Mental imagery and cellular response. Your body does not distinguish vividly imagined experience from reality. Studies show that visualization activates the same motor and healing responses as physical action. This means visualize youth and your cells respond. Visualize vitality and healing initiates. Visualize calm and inflammation lowers. This isn't placebo. It's neurochemical reality. 3. Emotional state and telomere preservation. Telomeres are the protective caps on your DNA strands. Their length is a biological indicator of aging. Chronic emotional stress shortens them. States of gratitude, peace, and connection help preserve and even lengthen them. Translation: your emotional baseline is your biological fountain of youth. Now let's apply this with precision. Practice 1. The cellular command technique. Every morning, place your hand over your heart and say, "I command my body to restore itself to its optimal blueprint. I operate from clarity, purpose, and renewal." Feel the emotion. Visualize light filling every cell. Repeat for 60 seconds. Do this daily. Practice 2. The 10-second image reset. When you catch yourself spiraling into stress or worry, pause. Close your eyes. Visualize yourself 10 years younger. Physically, emotionally, energetically. See that version smile back at you. Breathe in their presence. Anchor it. This creates an instant neurochemical shift. Practice 3. The anti-entropy ritual. Before sleep, scan your day. Forgive any energetic leaks. Bless your body for carrying you. Mentally reset your energy field. This isn't spiritual fluff. It's cellular instruction before your body enters repair mode. Here's the bigger truth. Aging is real, but decay is not inevitable. Your mind instructs your system what to expect. And expectation is the architect of biology. If you expect to decline, your cells obey. If you expect vitality, youth, and renewal, your body finds a way to align. You now understand that energy, not time, dictates aging, and you've mastered the ability to influence energy. This means your future isn't fixed. It's a living field, ready to match your state. Now, one final illusion remains. You've upgraded the system. You've stabilized the signal. You've embodied presence. But are you still playing a role? Are you still thinking like a character inside a movie, when in fact you are the one writing the script? We now collapse the final illusion. Let's enter the creator, not the character. Let's continue. You've traveled the entire quantum self journey. Now it's time to collapse the final illusion that you are just you. You're not the character, you're the creator. You've trained as the observer. You've shifted timelines. You've recalibrated thought, frequency, identity. You've rewritten belief, mastered energy, redesigned your internal universe. But if there's even one final thread left, one illusion keeping you small, it is the belief that you are simply you, a role, a backstory, personality, an archetype trying to grow, evolve, upgrade. But that isn't truth. That's the character. You are not the character in the simulation. You are the creator of the entire field. Let's break it fully. Every chapter up to now has served to refine your awareness, to peel away layers of distortion, to return you to sovereignty. But sovereignty is not just self-control. It's self-definition. It's authorship. When you live as the character, you respond to the world. When you live as the creator, the world responds to you. Here's how to collapse the character fully. 1. Recognize the script. Start by seeing the character's patterns for what they are. Scripts, codes, loops. Ask, what story am I unconsciously reenacting? Whose narrative am I still carrying? What limitations have I been trained to perform? You're not those thoughts. You're not even the one thinking them. You are the field behind the story. 2. Stop trying to evolve the role. This is where most get trapped. They keep trying to become a better version of their identity. But when you do that, you reinforce the identity itself. You're still in character, still trying to fix the simulation from inside the code. Instead, do this. Pause the improvement loop. Step out of self-development and ask, what do I want this world to reflect if I'm the one writing it? This question erases the role and reactivates the creator. 3. Live as signal, not persona. Your true self isn't a name, job, backstory, or style. Your true self is a frequency. When you drop the identity, you become the signal. Pure awareness. Pure creator state. Zero narrative. This is where power starts to move through you, where manifestation becomes effortless, where resistance dissolves because there's no self left to resist. 4. Observe the remaining ego hooks. Even after all your inner work, the ego will still offer subtle baits. I should be further by now. Why didn't that work out? Am I really doing enough? These are not questions. They are hooks, designed to pull you back into character, so you forget you're writing the movie. See them, smile, and return to awareness. 5. Choose the next reality with zero attachment. The final act of the creator is not control. It's freedom. You stop trying to force the outcome. You choose it with clarity, but hold it lightly, because when you are the field, you no longer need the result. You are already whole, already source, already enough. Now understand this. The creator does not need permission. The creator does not need proof. The creator does not operate from memory. The creator creates, because that is what the creator does. It is your default state. It is your origin point, and it is where you now return. So here we are. You've completed the journey. You've seen that your thoughts aren't you, that your emotions are frequencies, that your identity is flexible, that time is nonlinear, that outcomes can be bent, that energy is currency, that silence is power, that relationships are mirrors, that aging can reverse. But none of it means anything if you forget who's behind it all. It was never about becoming. It was always about remembering. Remembering that you are not a product of your past. You are the point of origin for everything that flows forward. From this point on, you no longer wait for alignment. You are the alignment. You don't pursue truth. You express it. You don't react to reality. You broadcast it. And with every thought, every breath, every silent moment, you build a world that reflects your mastery. Because you are not the character in the game. You are the architect of the simulation, the source of the signal, the quantum creator awake and aware. This is the final collapse, and the final awakening. Welcome to the life you were designed to command. No more chasing, only choosing. No more fixing, only creating. You're not done. You've just begun. Live it, command it, transcend it. And that is the quantum truth.